called and said she might not be able to make it back from White Plains on time. Councilman Phillips.
Here.
Casella.
Here.
Supervisor Clerk.
Here, everyone please rise for our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone please be seated. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as posted?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. I have a motion to acknowledge the meeting minutes for the meeting of September 14, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. I'd like to welcome Steve. As we get started, it's awfully warm in here. Can you check and see to make sure that that is cool? Yeah, just check. Huh? Error message. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, not
Want
working.
to welcome everyone tonight to our town board, meeting, last meeting in September, and also I want to wish of you happy Yom Kippur, and have a good and blessed year ahead for everyone, in our town and elsewhere. I want to remind everyone that our town hall remains open and fully. I'm very proud to report that we are open for business with the COVID protocols that the board had reviewed and passed in place. During this period that we've been open since the beginning of July, we've now welcomed nearly 5,000 visitors to Town Hall. And that's coming in through our desk, going through the process that we have been. During the month of September alone, we've been averaging 550 people a week. Wow. And so, we really, I think, are servicing the town, trying to do it, the best that we can. And I really want to thank all of our staff and each and every one, for the outstanding dedication that they've made in making this process move, I think, very, very smoothly, perhaps more smooth than it used to in the previous pre-COVID point in time. I think that being said, we're all trying to assist our community in the best way we can since this pandemic that we're experiencing has led to sweeping changes and disruptions in all aspects of our life. And we here at Town Hall fully recognize it, and all of us, and I think those the staff too, we're all overwhelmed, stressed, and of course anxious, for the future. Yes, we do need to keep our social distance, and I think, as I'll mention in just a couple minutes, it is working here in the town and in the county to prevent the further spread. We remain open, all of us here on the board, the town, to stay connected and listen to your needs. I know there are a lot of concerns, and we have some residents here tonight that also have some concerns. But we are doing our best to listen and try to be more considerate and helpful during the course of our service to you. One of the questions that I get asked and others have asked is, what does COVID-19 mean for Halloween? What's going to happen? And at this writing, the infection rate at Dutchess County remains well below the threshold levels. And as of my notes here, it's still approximately at 0.5%. And the active cases here in the town have continued to drop to a reported level of 8 as of, I believe, yesterday's numbers. So in this recent last few months, it had risen up to as many as 25. That's not to say that we're out of it. There are a couple of hot spots in the area, including down in Beacon at an assisted living home that, according to the county executive and our health commissioner, is well under control as far as being isolated and in quarantine. But as to Halloween, the county executive, has mentioned publicly and to myself and others that we are still going to be open, for Halloween, but under safety precautions to be taken care of. Of course, this is subject to change, depending on how COVID continues to be handled in the coming weeks ahead. But based on the guidelines that the county executive had provided to me and others, if you want to venture out, have a plan for being safe and smart, to quote his words, and to perhaps do it as a family, and in those areas that such as your local, neighborhood, and stay within that area. Keep your group small. Again, we do have restrictions from a COVID point of view, and I think generally it's being recommended is don't open the door and hand things through the door, but put a bowl of candy, that's been wrapped on your stoop, as they would say in New York City. The Department of Health will be issuing an FAQ shortly. I checked just before the meeting. I didn't see anything yet on there, but further guidance if needed. Our town parks continue to remain open, as you are aware, and the rules and regulations on new signs, I hope, will be finally posted and actually finalized this evening, and the last discussion, I hope, on this particular point. Please continue to enjoy the parks, but remember, we're at the peak of tick season. Those little critters are out there, and so you have to be careful with what you wear, with checking every time you're out in tall grasses or the woods or even normal grasses, and take other precautions as you might. I want to remind everyone that every year it's very important to vote. So it's very important right now to make sure that you're registered to vote, and then vote for the candidates of your choice. If you've not yet registered, you do have until October 9th to complete the registration process. Applications postmarked by then will be accepted, and Dutchess County Board of Elections in Poughkeepsie, you can also go up there, and I believe also can call in. There's 3 voting options in New York. One is by absentee ballot, and that ballot needs to be applied by mail, call the BOE, or stop by the BOE Board of Election offices by October 27th. Voting early is again in place. It will start in our county on October the 24th through November 1st. For residents in the town of Wappinger, the nearest poll will be the town of Fishkill Town Hall. There are other locations throughout Dutchess County, including the Board of Elections up in Poughkeepsie. And then last but not by no means least, Election Day will be on November the 3rd. Another public civic announcement is the census. Please complete your census questionnaire. This is very important to the town of Wappinger, as many of you may not realize. The federal district court judge has extended the date to October 31st, which was the original date. It had been talked about perhaps closing earlier. But why is it important to us? It's important because, one, it helps determine the grant monies, grant applications, subsidies that may be available, particularly for our infrastructure, such as water, sewer, highway development. We are benefiting right now from some of those numbers that were done in the 2010 census, but we really need to get the turnout. Apportionment, how many seats do we get in the U.S. Congress for the House of Representatives is determined by the census. You hear all about the supposed leaving of New York, the abandoning of New York. Well, that will hurt us in representation if all of our head count is not successfully done. Even apportionment within the state, within the voting districts, which could include, in fact, the town of Wappinger when you look at the redrawing of boundaries. So emergency assistance, other sort of funding. We have what is, you've heard us talk about in the board, things such as AIM funding. It is very important to us to continue to keep that level of funding because it plays a key role in our A-fund budgeting process, which you'll be hearing more about during the month of October in our discussions. So please submit your census. It can be found at www.2020census.gov if you haven't filled it in already. As of October the 28th, the town of Wappinger is actually in third place as far as the numbers voted. We're at 71.6%. September 20th, I'm sorry, thank you. September, and so we're at 71.6%. We'd like to see it a lot higher to get a more accurate survey on the number of people here. So please submit your census questionnaire as soon as you can, but certainly before the end of October. Last but by no means least, we are approaching the flu season. So please, those of you that believe in vaccinations, and everybody, really get out and get your shot. I've gotten mine. They don't know how this season's going to go, so be on the safe side. So please, be safe, remain well, and I can't thank you enough. So I appreciate your attention this evening. So having concluded my report, I'd like to open up for a public hearing. This is in actually 3 matters. We'll take each one of the, 4 matters. We'll take each one of the matters separately. So do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The first item that we'd open up is in the matter of the increase and improvement of the facilities of the United Wappinger Water District in the town of Wappinger, Dutchess County, New York. And this is an interconnection also with the village. So do I have any comments, any questions from the board? Any questions or from the public on this particular issue, on this one issue? We have other issues as we come to it.
Make a motion, we close this public hearing?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, this public hearing is closed. The second item, I'd like to have a motion to open the public hearing is in the matter of the increase and improvement of the facilities of the United Wappinger Sewer District in the town of Wappinger, Dutchess County, New York. This was with respect to the upgrades, proposed upgrades for the tri-municipal sewer plant that processes all of our waste from our our town sewer system.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the hearing is open. Do we have any comments from the public? If so, please come up to the podium and identify yourself.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is, that we'll open, I have a motion for opening a public hearing, is a resolution introducing local law number 3 of 2020, which would amend Chapter 240, zoning, Chapter 217, subdivision of land, Chapter 145, go-karts, and Chapter 122, fees and fines of the town code with respect to a variety of matters. So this is local law changes that we've discussed a number of times at the board meetings. I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Now, is there anybody that'd like to comment on this particular motion? Please come up, identify yourself.
Were we waiting for some information on this one, or?
Yeah, because we've adjourned this a couple times now.
No, this is the first time this is on.
So I think was our
So it's-
consensus that we were.
Oh, I'm sorry, the subdivision of land.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, so, I'm looking at the next one.
Yeah.
We didn't have the 5-day notice
We
last
didn't
time.
have, right, so it's been amended. There was a discussion regarding some of the comments that Councilman Beal made regarding commercial vehicles and mobile homes. And the local, and trail, right. So those issues were removed from the local law and will be addressed in a subsequent
Okay.
local law.
Okay.
So
thank
the
you.
last time we got those, we did not have the 5-day period, that it
So
was
we had
in
to
final
adjourn it?
form. It was in final form
Okay.
and presented to the board at its last meeting. So it's now in a position to be adopted.
And then I assume we're going to readdress those other issues at a later time?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
that's the intention.
So we've been looking at, the issues with respect to mobile home parks, and, we've looked at the, also with respect to parking, we've had, parking of, trailers and vehicles. What we were looking at is revising that so that it would be based on the size of the lot and the zoning district in which it was in. So that's,
And there may be 1 or 2 other items, Bill, as we've been communicating on those code changes.
If we do those separate, though,
yes.
All right, I have no problem with this.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item on the public hearing is item number 4, the resolution introducing local law number 4 of the year 2020, amending Chapter 171 of the Town of Wappinger Code entitled Parks and Recreation by repealing the existing provisions in their entirety and adding new provisions. This is with respect to the sign rules.
Or just all the rules for the parks?
All of them. So do I have a motion to open this public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. And this is a public hearing for comments with respect to that, code change, specifically. Any comments?
In reading through it, I've got a bunch of amendments I'd like to make to the wording on it.
Sure.
Do you
What
want to
in-
go over them now, or?
Yeah, we could discuss them now.
Okay, well, when you look at the list of parks, there's a whole bunch missing off of it. And we should also add the verbiage, what about inclusive of the burial grounds and cemeteries? Or no?
This doesn't, it wasn't originally addressed to burial grounds and cemeteries.
But you,
We had discussed that we would have a separate,
we're gonna do something on that?
on that.
I think wherever we have the recreation director, it should also be inclusive of the town board.
So with respect to the town board, I mean, one of the things would be, if you put the town board in place of the recreation.
Or, how about and/or?
Well, basically what is typically in here would be issuing permits.
Right.
The typical day-to-day activities, that would be done by, the recreation director. So to the extent you, take that responsibility and put it, within the responsibility of the town board, it would probably delay the process with
But
respect to the day-to-day
Can you put the
operation.
verbiage in and/or though? I mean, because you're pulling it basically out of our hands. We would have to,
Well, I mean,
as a
you-
board,
the-
vote
the-
to
the
change
town-
something.
So, is there any particular area?
I'm just saying, in general, it's defined as a recreation director in many instances. I just think it should be inclusive of the town board.
Okay,
What are you referring to specifically?
For the new law for Chapter 171, Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, what section, though?
Okay, so if you go to 171.3 under B, it's Recreation Director. I think it shouldn't be inclusive of either supervisor and/or town board. If you go down to closing of parks, I mean, you could even be inclusive of the buildings and grounds director.
Well, the mechanism for a peddler's license to be obtained is not a town board action. That's processed through.
Isn't that already done through town clerk?
right.
Right, so that wouldn't be something that we would have purview over.
How about above that, where it says any area
I mean,
prohibited?
with respect to the first thing that you had mentioned regarding, the town recreation director, I think it would be, you could add in that situation, or, other area adopted pursuant by resolution of the town board.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
Right, but where would we pass a resolution on
Yeah.
any of this?
I'm sorry?
Where would we have jurisdiction on any of this? We wouldn't be passing resolutions on people putting up signs in the park.
No, I'm just saying with respect to B, like properly licensed dogs, and it talks about, areas where they would be permitted, or I should say not permitted. So, theoretically, you could have a situation where, you could add certain things by resolution rather than going through the local law process, which might be appropriate, in something like that. As far as with respect to, putting up signs or, I think that's something theoretically that, you could, permit as well by town board resolution. The, alcoholic beverages, I could see that. In fact, we typically do that.
And when were we gonna get a permit process in place?
So I had, a couple of times brought a permit process sheet, and as part of that permit process, that the town board would have to pass by resolution, it does say in there that any use that uses alcohol has to go in front of the town board. So that, as part of our rental procedure, would be getting passed by resolution. In the end, once I have your approval, I'm the one that's actually issuing the permit. So in terms of the wording in there, I think that fits. In terms of the policy and procedure, we'd be adopting that policy and procedure for use where I would not be issuing that permit without the approval of the town board.
And you monitor that to make sure they're following the rules for alcohol, et cetera, okay?
Absolutely, absolutely. Once this passes at the next meeting where I can get a slot on the agenda, those rental procedures will be coming back in front of the board. We had to get a lot of this laid out first before we could adopt rental procedures that conflicted what we had in the books. So,
On F, so vendors need to get a peddler's license from the town clerk and your permission?
it would be generally associated with events and rentals and things like that. There are still a couple of things that we had talked about the other day in terms of peddler's licenses in the park. So generally, the need for that is waived for an event that we're having where we're bringing stuff in. We just ask for Board of Health approval and such like that. So,
Because it's written as without permission from the recreation director and a peddler's license.
So if I'm the ice cream man,
yeah,
and you're having the summer camp final day, and I have a peddler's license in the town of Wappinger, you're telling me that I can't stop at that park and sell ice cream?
as of right now,
I disagree with this. We gotta look at this. There's a number of things here that we have to look at, because relative to carrying and distributing signs being prohibited, there's gotta be a First Amendment issue with that on public property. You can't tell me that somebody can't come into our park and hand out flyers, whether they be protesting something or whatever, in a peaceful manner. I don't think we have any ability to restrict people from handing anything out.
Well,
that one I
Take it
don't-
from
You
me.
can-
Take
you
it from
can-
me, who was pulled aside by the police when I was running for office, handing out US constitutions on town park property. So that one I'm not gonna agree to. And that's how ridiculous it gets sometimes.
no, I understand that.
You know, I just was involved with a very peaceful demonstration in the city of Poughkeepsie at Mansion Square Park. There were no permits, there was no anything, and there was nobody was gonna tell people to stop handing things out. I don't think that's the role of local government, to be telling people not to be handing things out, especially during a peaceful demonstration. Erecting and posting signs, I get that, but carrying or distributing flyers, posters, or placards without written permission of the recreation director, I think is misguided, and I don't think that's good to be including in here. If we're gonna talk about leaving them behind and not cleaning them up, I get that, but I don't think we have any ability to tell someone that they can't hand something out in a town park.
I think the original sentiment of it, and maybe a way to change that, has to do with, handing out flyers for a business, you know what I mean?
Then you could put commercial,
Right.
Yeah.
commercial posters or whatever. I mean, the mantra of this town in 2005, when I ran for office, was, you are not allowed to run for office on Community Day,
I remember.
okay? And
Not that specific.
I have been against this notion since day one. I was pulled out of the parade. I was confronted by deputies, okay? Because the town of Wappinger had rules that you cannot insert politics into a community day. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Part of Community Day is the democracy we live in, and running for office for those that are not incumbents is allowed. So
And we
here we
do
are.
now.
I don't
We
want
do
any
now.
sort of verbiage in this park and recreation rules that implies in any way, shape, or form that we have some notion that still remains from that misguided and most likely unconstitutional approach that had been used for years. So I think that what we should do is take a closer look at this between now and the next meeting, and then come back with a better document. I understand this has been going on for a while. I understand that, we're taking some pre-existing things and we're adding some new things, but I just want to make sure that we're not going to box ourselves in here in some way inadvertently.
Jim, I've got
with some of
notes
this.
all the way through. I'll send them to you.
Sure,
and
sure.
you can just.
Yeah,
send
we
them
can-
all
we
of
can-
them
Could you
all.
copy me on that one? Okay.
Sure, to the issue of handing out flyers and permits for signs, the First Amendment case law is very, very specific, fact-specific, but as a general rule, a town may set reasonable, what are called time, place, and manner restrictions on posting of signs or handing out flyers. In those cases, the town can require pre-approval. However, you're very limited in what respects you can, you basically can't deny the approval. And the approval, you can give, certain warnings regarding, you must clean up. The biggest problem with distributing flyers and handbills is the trash that people leave behind.
But that's not what this item G says. I agree
No,
with
I-
Councilman
I-
Beal
I-
that
I
this is
underst-
overly broad.
Right, and to the extent you create a provision like that, you at the same time have to create, in essence, if you're going to put in the restriction, you're gonna have to at the same time put in a permit process that will withstand constitutional scrutiny. So I agree with that. So I guess the
Right, but
question
we-
becomes either, just from the sense of the board, whether we want to just omit the section or put in a regulation that would withstand scrutiny.
I
'Cause
I
you
would
can-
just say that if, anything that's handed out, number one, it really shouldn't be of commercial,
That's my concern.
context, right? And anything that's handed out should be, ensure that it's cleaned up afterwards. I don't want to be in a position here where we're requiring, it's 2020 now. We can't look at things the way that we have always looked at things, because we've always done things certain ways. I can tell you right now, if there's a motivated group of people that wants to have a demonstration or a rally, they're not going to get a permit. They're going to show up at our park, and what are we going to do? Call the cops? Because that's not going to work. Because my position is that a town park is owned by the people. As long as there's no laws being broken, I have no objection to that. So I don't want to inadvertently create a regulation here that implies there's, rules that, number one, we can't enforce, right?
Yeah.
Tangibly we can't enforce. And number two, creating a notion that there is some pushback from the local government. So I don't think we're trying to do that, but I don't want to inadvertently come
Yeah.
across with that on the page.
And
So
I
in
think-
light of the discussions, and the comments, I recommend that somebody make a motion to table, this. And
I'll move the table.
I'll second it, and we're going to make sure that in 2 weeks, you're going to come back and give us a recommendation as to some of the things that
Right.
Bill and Chris were talking
Yeah,
about.
that's what the
So-
motion table.
I mean,
What I
the-
can.
The one issue regarding particularly handbills that are handed out, the problem becomes enforcement from a littering point of view, because the littering is not done by the person handing out the handbill. It's actually done by the person who's throwing the
Actually
handbill
receiving
away.
it sometimes, yeah.
So that's the problem with enforcing handbill regulations. I know New York City has certain provisions. It goes to the same issue, with respect to some of the posting of signs. You'll see the signs on the telephone poles and things like that. They get to be very difficult to enforce because you don't necessarily see the person putting the sign up. But one of the problems with respect to, particularly with respect to littering and handbills, the defense is, I didn't litter with the handbill. I just gave it to the person, and that person threw it on the ground. So,
Well, I mean, we can go
there's-
down a rabbit hole, but
No, I know, I'm
the
just
point
saying-
is, let's just be extra conscious
agreed.
of the Constitution,
Well,
especially
sure.
right now.
Right. So we have a motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or
so
abstentions?
the
Seeing none,
motion would be,
passed.
I don't know if there's anyone else before you, any more comment from the public, but the appropriate motion would be to adjourn the public hearing at this
Okay,
point.
great.
All right, so moved.
So,
And just as a little bit of forward action on this, since we're gonna be discussing notes and things through email. What I will do is email out another copy of the field use procedures and park use procedures that I would be bringing to the board, just because I think it'll assuage some fears about the alcohol thing in the parks, no entertainment or exhibition shall be given without the direct approval, those kinds of things. We have a flow chart of who those approvals would come from, and then, of course, the final permit is being issued by the Recreation Department. So I think once you have that in your hands as well, again, that'll sort out some of that for you, because it's not really being done under the sole jurisdiction of myself.
Okay.
Just back to that application thing, one point, just make sure that the alcohol and anything over X number of people,
Yep.
whatever we discussed previously, I know
Yep.
5,000 people, not that we can fit 5,000 people in most of our parks, but I know of one that we can,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That automatically triggers the health permit and things like that.
That is
So make
in
sure
there.
that
Yep,
your application is consistent with the proposed legislation as well as the things we talked about
Yeah.
previously. The town board really should be, in my opinion, authorizing alcohol use and any mass gatherings, whatever
Yeah.
we define a mass gathering.
and we have that in there, you'll read it, but yet we
Okay.
have that in there, that any alcohol use will come before the town board, any gathering above a certain size will come to the town board. Any gathering where people are looking to have like a vendor fair or larger scale events is gonna come before the town board. It's a flow chart that also includes the zoning administrator, the fire inspector, anybody who needs to have their hands on something to look at an aspect
Okay.
of the event.
Thank you.
Okay. There is a motion. Was there a second?
So let me just restate the motion. So
Go ahead.
I'm going to move to adjourn the public hearing.
Right.
Right.
So somebody needs
Is
to
there a
second.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second to adjourn the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next item is open the public portion of the meeting. This is outside of the public hearings we just had. This is with respect to the discussion items and resolutions that we have in the agenda, and only those items. So do I have a motion to open the public portion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. So if anybody has any comments with respect to items that are specifically identified on the agenda, please come up and, identify yourself and raise the issues to the board.
So you can talk about, just for your reference, Resolution 2020-157, which affects you, it's Route 376 Holdings. I don't know if you wanted to come up and speak to that, but that is an agenda item.
Okay, the last meeting I was here, they mentioned about 376 cars coming from Poughkeepsie to turn into that gas station right there. Can they turn in the gas station, or do they have to turn into Hackensack to get into the gas station coming that way? I remember
Just
the
point of
last
order,
meeting.
we just need a name and address for the record.
Marlon Chung, 2 Hackensack Heights Road.
Thank you.
Jim, I don't know if you want to address that one.
Barbara, do we, at the planning board, the one issue is, Route 376 is under the jurisdiction of New York State DOT. So, my understanding is they're only permitting a right turn in and a right turn out, correct? So, there's no left turn into the gas station from,
That's pretty new to us too. We never knew about the left turn. I never heard that one. So I live right there, so for me to go to work,
so if you're going toward Poughkeepsie on 376.
Correct.
My understanding, based on the last planning board meeting, was that the New York State DOT is only gonna permit from 376 a right turn in and then a right turn out on, is that 376 north?
376, yeah.
I don't know if it's really gone west, but I don't know if it's north or south. So you would, going, toward Poughkeepsie.
So towards Poughkeepsie, right into Hackensack Heights, and as you're coming out of Hackensack Heights, a right towards Poughkeepsie. Those are the only two turns.
No, so that's into the gas station. So as far as the turn, I don't know, is there a turn lane, a left turn lane in now at
No,
Hackensack
there's no
Heights?
left turn lane.
So, so yeah, that's, I mean, that's my understanding of what the DOT,
So there's a turn into the gas station, there's gonna be from to Hackensack, there's gonna be an entrance to the gas station.
correct.
That's right.
Okay, so now I am number 2, the very first house there. Coming in now, sometimes I have to back out there. I wanna find out, am I gonna have a car hitting me or my mom or my dad? I need to find out, how is this really gonna be working there? Because I have to look into all of this as well too.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's, my understanding would be if you were coming southbound on 376, that would be the only way to get
Yeah,
in.
but I'm talking about the cars coming onto Hackensack. I have to back out of my driveway. I'm the very first house. If you
Right.
turn that corner, it's from here to right there.
Right.
I'm right there. There's no time for them to stop to hit me there.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's something, I guess we have to.
I mean, that's the situation that's the situation though that currently exists, correct?
It exists now, but the
It's
traffic
just
is
there's not as much
correct,
traffic.
not like what's
Right, so it's gonna be a lot
happen.
less traffic is the issue.
So the only way cars can pull into that gas station is to make a right on Hackensack Heights and then make a left into
No.
the gas station?
So you would so if you're coming north on 376.
Right.
There will be an entrance into the gas station from a right turn in
Okay.
from 376.
So the
And then-
issue is exiting the gas station?
No, the only exit to get to 376 would be a right turn
Right-hand
out,
turn.
which would put you on 376 north.
So you can't, so how do you go south on 376?
You would have to go to New Hackensack and make a left. You would go to Hackensack Heights and make a left.
Yeah, so it's going to increase the traffic flow on
So it's
on
gonna
New
increase the
Hackensack Road.
Hackensack Heights.
That's right.
That's right.
That's
So
right.
so who can the town appeal to at the state DOT level
Well,
for something like this?
I told Mr. Chung before that I was going to raise it at our next meeting with the state DOT. Because, because we're talking about that whole roundabout.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And so they're working on the designs as we discussed in my office. And so when we have that meeting, I will raise that issue.
So this is,
That should be shortly.
this is a pet peeve of mine too, not this spot, but there's,
Yeah.
as you know, Jim, there's a bunch of locations where the state makes these decisions on
Right.
entry and exit, right? And it basically, in my opinion, personal opinion, creates more of a hazard for people that are trying to go and, go into a location and come out of a location. Now, this is probably some sort of an engineered visibility reason or something like that, right?
No, it typically goes to what they call warrants and, the amount of, so when they look at these issues, they look at what's estimated to be the number of vehicles that'll be making the turn, and it's kind of a mechanistic, there's this kind of formula that they have to follow. And, with respect to that, the general rule that the state DOT has taken for many years is, we don't want you getting to any property from our highway,
Yeah.
go on a local road. That's basically what they more or less
So
say.
we're against that,
Because
right?
it'll
Right.
screw up our traffic.
And,
But we don't care about your traffic. I didn't say that because DOT's now gonna come and help me down, but that's generally their principle. They typically limit the access to the state highway, to right turn-ins and right turn-outs is basically, they don't, in this case,
And how's that working out for Chase Bank?
Yeah, right.
That's a
Yeah,
tough
how's
one.
that working out when people are making a left against the island and coming across
Right.
5 lanes of traffic, almost causing accidents? How's that working out for Mobile at 9 and Myers?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so, I brought this up 1,000 times. The supervisor has a direct connection to the Poughkeepsie Dutchess County Transportation Advisory Council. I think you meet monthly, right?
Yeah.
Who are basically the bigwigs from the DOT.
well,
They should have
Well,
access to
I'm
the
gonna raise-
engineers.
yeah.
whether they listen or not.
Well,
We have
gotta
two
be-
channels, we have two opportunities for this site.
Right.
One is respect to the roundabout, which, Tim and
Now, is that
I
one
are-
of the roundabout proposed locations or no?
No, it's further down, but they're talking about traffic flow, right?
It's where all the lights are, right
Okay.
there in
Oh,
that
right.
intersection.
Okay.
So
That
where
right
the lights
there,
are, that's
right?
where the
That'd work.
roundabout's
But
gonna go.
it extends out, both as to traffic flow.
So is that
as-
your blue house there?
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
It was,
So if
yeah.
you look at if you
In the
look at
church property.
So, yeah,
there,
your
he's
driveway is
further down.
basically right behind where they,
No, but
He's
further
like
down. Further down.
right in front, right there, the fence right there, that's his property.
Yeah,
turn
right there.
Yep. He's right
But
there
are
in
they,
the corner.
are they expanding this parcel, Jim, to that rear parcel also?
Yes.
They are.
So would that mean that the exit would be back further and not opposite his
Yeah,
driveway?
where's the entrance and exit? on
Yeah, I think
Hackensack
the entrance is
Heights?
being moved, Barbara went to get the site plan, but I
Yeah.
believe the entrance is being moved further back off of, it's not going to be right there.
No,
I
that's
believe
why they
it's
bought
actually,
the other property behind it.
Right where
The red box is right now?
I think that's
Yeah.
what you were mentioned before.
yeah,
But
because
now-
that's the other thing too, is that I believe, Tim, how far back does the DOT jurisdiction go? Is it 100 feet?
It depends on how it's set up, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's like, if
Yeah,
it's
there's-
100
there's-
feet, that building would be.
Jim, there, you know, and council members, there are several issues with respect to this. One is also drainage that we need to address, particularly, as Mr. Chung's pointed out, with respect to also winter snow disposal. And they put it right over the drain that then, and I've mentioned this to Mr. Mood, Mr. Casella, that we need to be looking at that, you know, from
Absolutely.
the planning board point of view, so as not to flood his property and also flood not just his property, but going behind the church property, correct?
Right.
I summarized it correctly.
Yes.
So this is another issue. I have discussed with also Mr. Nesuit and Gasland Holdings about this need to address this as well,
Yeah,
where they
I
can.
think they're getting rid of a lot of the pervious pavement.
But there's a big drain.
That's an old
in-
picture, that doesn't even look like the picture today, I can tell you that right now. There's grass and everything there, there's all kinds of debris dumped in the back.
Yeah.
It's all boarded up, so.
Right.
One of the things we're gonna talk about as we get into the resolutions tonight, there's actually a bond there for them to be able to start cleaning up the property. We'll
Right.
get into that later on, but that's part of the agenda items tonight, and that's why I wanted them to come in tonight, to have their say, ask their questions, because I've been there a number of times now myself.
Yeah, same here.
And so we just want to, clear up any kind of questions they may have, and so
And
that's,
they've, you know, Gasland's agreed to put a fence up there. Actually, it should have been up by now, but I'm gonna get on them again for doing that. But I've asked Tim, I don't know, did Tom go out and look at the drainage situation yet? You
I don't know that he
They
has,
were there today.
They're there today? Okay, good.
good.
And another thing was the lighting now for the gas station.
Yeah.
Is that light gonna be bothering us in our house right
Oh,
now?
we've been, I know the planning board's been addressing lighting, you know, with this gas and other gas stations. So I think, you know, Barbara Roberti, our administrator, can talk about that. But I know the planning board, I can't speak for them, but from what I've seen, are very cognizant, very aware of that issue.
So it's not gonna be
Barbara, I don't know
shining
if you want to address
It's
that.
not going to be shining directly into your
Yeah.
front property there. That's one of the things they're making sure of.
So
Still
we're
high?
trying to keep the foot candles to .5 at the property line.
Right.
Some of the gas stations in the town have not been successful at that, so we're working to rectify that. So the lighting plan has been looked at stringently for this one. I just went to get the plan for the in and out, but I believe, I can't find B's file right at this moment, but I believe it's one way in and one way out. But they are using Hackensack Height Road.
But the practical, as Councilman Beal has mentioned, the real practical impact is going to be a real problem there as far as traffic flow. A lot of people don't pay attention to those things, so I think we still need to be looking at this issue more
Well,
closely.
they don't have DOT approval yet,
Yeah.
at least we haven't received it.
Okay.
And usually when these things happen, they're gonna be doing the roundabout as well.
Yeah, well, I'm going to
The
talk with DOT.
signage will be,
Yeah.
strong, and a lot of times, the way they bring it out, they make it where your car
Okay.
can't go to the left, everything will have to flow to the right.
I would make sure the gentleman is in the loop on the planning board meetings and can express his concerns to that board also. Obviously, you have valid points here, and I'd be
Right.
concerned too if I lived where you do.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of children on that road too. It's all the traffic, there's every, what, how many houses? There's 90 houses up on that road.
Right.
Yeah.
There's kids walking that road. I mean, even right now, people were even turning on the wrong turn. They're speeding like 100 miles going
Yeah.
up the hill there.
Right.
You know, we've got to think about our kids and things as well.
I think the object of development here is to improve the situation, right? Nobody wants to continue to look at that, right, Al?
Absolutely not. It's
But
been
we
an
want to
eyesore
make
for a
sure
long
that
time now.
the beautification
Yes.
also makes sense practically, right?
I think they can do this smartly, Bill. I mean, if they do the turns correctly as they're projecting, they're going to do the turns where they're going to have just the right-hand turns. I think that will certainly, make things a little bit better. Hopefully less traffic down Hackensack Heights, more directly into the gas station itself. So hopefully that will help. Again, the aesthetics alone are going to be significantly better. They're going to put the fence up. The idea tonight is if they get the bond approved by the board, that they'll be able to start
Right.
doing some of the work to help clean up the
Yeah.
property.
The other thing, Mr. Moot, just take Mr., comment, maybe you're gonna make it, is that his well is in the front lawn. So we have to be very careful, and I think you can talk to Mr. Sotero, that when the planning board's reviewing this, that they look at the water runoff treatment, because his well's right there. And it's a, great concern for potential contamination, correct?
Yes.
That's what you. And I know they have bring in bottled water right now today to drink, so I know it's a major concern for them. So whatever we can do to try to help mitigate some of the problems would be great.
Now, you had this old video here. What about the trees now? Could you see, I don't know if you could pull that video with the trees to the side on 376? Those are my trees, no, back this way here. Now, look at all my trees, they're green. All my trees are dead right now. Don't ask me how.
Part of it, I suspect, is when they plow snow and salt, goes in there off the road, so. That, so I will talk with them.
I jumped over the property, and they were cutting down some of the things and stuff like that, so I literally saw somebody doing that.
The other thing too, Dick, just so you know, I talked to DOT directly too as well. They're maintaining the property on the other side of the fence, and that's something DOT should be doing. They're coming in to clean the drain out for them. Hopefully this week, they're supposed to do it early next week. So we're trying to get some things moving along here for them, because they have expressed concerns, and we're trying to, take care of those concerns.
Where is the drain at?
It's right on the corner of Hackensack Heights and 376.
Oh, right there?
Yeah, right there.
Right.
Okay.
So that's gotta be cleaned. I mean, there's weeds and everything growing out of that thing. It's awful looking, and no water's able to go down it, so it's gonna cause a flooding
All
issue.
clogged.
I'm the one been cleaning it for years, the whole side of the road.
So that's what the gentleman promised me. He's gonna be there. I've talked to him twice now, so hopefully.
He did a
Look at
good job this morning.
Oh, they did come.
On both sides.
Excellent. Good. Good to hear, glad to hear that. Thank you. Steve, did you have something you wanted to add?
He mentioned the dead trees. I happened to notice that last week when I drove through, and it appears that they're ash trees and victims of the emerald ash borer.
Oh, jeez.
I missed that, I'm sorry.
They're-
I happened to notice the dead trees that you had mentioned. There's quite a few of them along the roadway through that area, and they're ash trees. And ash trees in this area have been attacked by the emerald ash boring beetle, which is killing all the trees in the area, all the ash trees in the area. And I would bet that that's what happened.
Five trees,
Yeah.
Steve,
We have,
Oh, yeah.
I have hundreds of trees in the parks that are dead.
but they cut out my trees first.
And there were a lot, there were people bringing them things, it just seems weird, I'm sorry.
Anybody else want to speak? Flavia, did you want to speak at all, or anybody else? Issues with this? We'll try to, keep you informed. Like I said, I stop by occasionally, so you know that. God, sure, come on.
I'd like to find out about the water as well. Pipe water? City, what is it, city water, town water?
No, it's no town water.
Correct.
So the county has run the water line down behind, on the other side along the airport, and we've been trying to have some discussions about taking it underneath the road in connection with a roundabout because of some other issues, so that's
Correct.
still in discussion.
That's a
So
possibility.
as I mentioned when we visited, I'll be exploring that further.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I do appreciate you coming out tonight and expressing your concerns and issues. And like I said, we'll try to keep on top of this and let you know what's going on. And you have my phone number, so you know how to get a hold of me. So anything I can do to help, please let me know. Thank you.
Any other comments on the public portion? Seeing none, do you have a motion?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item will be our discussions. Mr. Moot, our town engineer, would you review with us a couple updates?
Right, so we recently submitted for 3 grant applications to the state EFC, 2 under the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. Those 2 would be the Fleetwood wastewater treatment plant upgrades. DEC had put us on notice that would soon be a notice of violation due to current standards. So we worked with Scott Williams to put together a grant application to get at least on the list. And that would be for a $4.3 million project. And that would be to basically gut and replace the existing facility. It's currently located too far from any other facility to tie into Tri-Municipal. There is an outside shot if on a further outlook, if the Route 9 extension corridor would to occur down the road, it would be a sequencing thing. But
Right.
for the meantime, DEC reminded us that they were looking at this list and didn't see any town of Wappinger projects on there. So we quickly followed up as well with the Midpoint Sewer, and that would be a $12.7 million project. And again, because of where that is, it's a long distance to pipe into Tri-Muni. But, you know, we basically got that on the application to go on the list.
That was
as
gotta
well.
go
And we've
first,
talked
that's
with,
minor,
EFC, and they're receptive to this.
Right.
When monies are available.
Right, when monies are available. And then switching to water, we put in an application for Atlas wells. We've currently, this year, upgraded Hilltop. Previous was Meadowwood. So now we're looking at some increased filtration upgrades
Right.
for the Atlas well field, and that put in at a $5.2 million grant application.
So, the timing's right, and there is the interest, and I think this, with Atlas, would further, and finalize that three-prong approach. The fourth prong is, as we discussed before, with respect to the New York City DEP contract.
Right.
So the grant is 5.2 million, what's the total project cost?
That's the total project cost, so
How
that
much is the
all went
grant?
in.
So
Well,
the entire
grant,
amount?
They have to evaluate it
Yeah.
and get
Okay.
back. So this is just really getting the application in, getting recognized, and getting on the IUP list. actually.
Okay,
And as we found, it's usually a 2-3 year process before you get to the monies, but at least we get in there and we start checking off boxes.
It
Right,
shows-
Jim?
Yeah, it shows the initiative.
Yeah. And the need, which
It's
they're
like an
aware of.
introduction.
and you get on the list to get some of the money, otherwise
Yeah.
you're not on the list.
That's
You don't-
right.
Yeah, if you're not on the list, you're not.
You're not gonna get anything.
being
You gotta be in it to win it.
considered.
There you go.
Yeah, that was
So
good.
I thank CPL because they put a lot of time and effort into getting these applications in the right technical, position.
We have been pretty successful
Yeah.
as far as, some of the municipalities in Dutchess County go, so.
And we still have, remember, the Wildwood, Wood Hill Green, Tri-Municipal, which is moving ahead, and we're,
Those are all moving, they were all grant
yeah.
initiatives, yeah.
And those were, you'll recall, I think we're in kind of the third year of that process, so, we're getting more recognized for those.
I think it's
Yes,
gonna be a challenge in the upcoming years, because of, the condition of the state finances, so.
Right.
To the extent we're already on the list and, have projects that have been, more toward the top, I think, it's helpful.
In our meeting with EFC last fall, where we met actually the director and all the key people, including their lawyers as well, was very useful, actually. It was an excellent meeting where they did extend a strong interest, I think, right, Tim?
It was
on
all well received, I
Yeah.
thought, and, a lot of it had to play in with your initiative
Yeah.
with the Wappinger Creek. And
Yeah, so that's a key thing, and even Fleetwood ultimately, it's a matter of flowing into, the creek and the river. So we're looking at, eliminating effluents and, that actually is part of our Wappinger Creek initiative, and for which we got grant money, so the 9-element plan, as the board may remember. So all that's going to be helpful in cleaning up, over time, the creek and the lake and then the lower creek.
So, just so the board knows, some of the funding from EFC comes from the federal government as a result of particularly the Clean Water Act. So, when there's discussion in Washington about infrastructure funding and, environmental initiatives, that's really the mechanism by which, the funding stream comes down to us. So, the EFC funding stream may be less impacted than in some of the other
Yeah.
state financing streams.
And I've had discussions with, Representative Maloney's office on this, and so we're on their radar, and if there were ever to be any HEROES Act funding, for the COVID, the town is on that list for some meaningful funding regardless how it comes out, so then we would have the ability to apply that to some of these and other projects if we wanted. And is that it?
That's
Mr.
pretty much
Moody?
it, yeah.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Tim.
Thank you very much. Carnwath Water, Mr. Cavazzini, in this case, he has undertaken an initiative that we discussed with respect to his legislative hat, but he's to report on this.
Can you state your name and address, please?
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board. As you're well aware, this administration and this board has taken very meaningful steps to making Carnwath Farms Historic Site and Park a viable cultural and recreational facility once again. And that includes, again, the Reese Cultural Center, really operational. Last year, we were able to get the Sports Museum of Dutchess County reopened after 4 years of being closed. And then this year, we also reopened the Sports Museum, but we were also able to rent out the facility for a number of outdoor, socially distant, private events, which include yoga on Friday nights at sunset, as well as over the summertime, we had a musical theater summer camp, and then now we have a dance and musical theater fall camp going on the property. To really get the Reese Cultural Center fully up and running, that requires water as well as HVAC to be installed. And to get that ball rolling, we ended up getting an estimate for $23,721 to basically run new plumbing infrastructure from a line that was just connected to the building earlier this year, donated by Camo Pollution Control. And it would run from the ground floor, all along the ground floor, and actually interconnect the former kitchen there and the 2 community room spaces on the ground floor, as well as hook up the sports museum, which again is open and paying rent, and still open, is open to the public. And that would allow their restroom facilities to be used and viable again, as well as their kitchen. So this would be a first phase. This would be to run that infrastructure, and eventually, once the infrastructure is turned on, finished, you can turn on the water in the spring and summertime. So this would be a first phase of the project to ultimately then bring in heat. If we approve this project before the winter and we can get it going, there may be an option to run the HVAC utilities in the wintertime and then ultimately maybe turn it on then, or just all turn it on in the springtime for it to be usable. There is, coming down the line, I've been in talks with Dutchess County Legislature Chairman Greg Pulver, and County Legislator Lisa Paloni and I met with him and discussed grant funding, which is already being committed to the town of Wappinger. That number is yet to be announced formally, but I can talk to you guys offline about that. But it's a good chunk of change, and it could really be put forward to this project, and the county legislature chairman has been excited about this. So there is additional funds coming along the way to fund phase 2 and 3, which would then complete this project of getting the ground floor and first floor of this cultural center fully viable and rented again.
When do you expect some final decision to be made on that?
Middle of October.
Okay.
Middle of October, the legislature will be announcing.
Okay. And this line would then be intended to bypass those that had leaked, you remember,
Yes.
exploded and
Yes.
frozen, and within
I remember
a few weeks
standing
of my being in office.
2
right?
feet of water in that
Right.
basement. But yes, this would be brand new lines
So let me ask
installed.
you a question. So
Yes,
I
sir.
understand that you're gonna, and I've been out there before,
Yep.
so I understand where you're gonna hook the line, but I thought we had to, right now we have a temporary, you said it through Mike Tremper.
Yes.
Are we gonna have to dig another trench, go whatever feet down, because that's not part of this cost?
That-
That's only the interior cost that the plumber is gonna do, correct?
So that's correct, and Mike Sheehan and his team did a fantastic job digging the existing trench, no cost to the additional cost to the town. It's just basically our highway guys going out there and digging the trench. So they dug the existing trench to run the new water line under the stone wall and under Carnwath Farms Lane to the building and hook it up into the building already. They would be willing to connect the last 50 feet or so. That is currently above ground, buried under mulch, but they could then dig that out and then do that work. But that is no additional cost to the town. That's just digging the existing line that's there, and
And who's going to put the piping in?
the piping is already there.
Oh, but you have a temporary, right? Running from the,
It's the same material. It's the same
you're
material.
just going to make
so
it deeper in the
You
ground?
just have to actually bury it in the ground. And Mike Tremper could give more specifics on that, and if there is a
But that's
if there's
above
a
and
cost.
beyond this $23,700 cost?
Yes, that is something that would have to come down the line eventually, is having Mike Sheehan and his guys come and dig the trench out, yes. But otherwise, this is the actual infrastructure cost to the
So
building.
this is your first phase. What do you expect will happen with revenue and things? Revenue would stay flat, revenue goes up?
So ultimately, and this is a budget discussion too, that I think the supervisor and myself will be bringing to you, but we would ultimately like to propose to the town board a new fee schedule specific to Carnwath. Because Carnwath is a very unique facility that can ultimately garner a lot more revenue if we adjust the fee schedule. So right now, we already have the interest. We already have the interest in rentals because they're already renting from us. And due to COVID, we had to turn away some people, so that's why we're doing the outdoor socially distanced activities. But I just met with Adam Roach, the director of Veteran Services for Dutchess County, newly appointed. Great guy. He's really going to do great work. But I met with him on Friday, and he really sees Carnwath as a very unique and important asset to the county. And I talked to him about his vision for ultimately bringing more county veteran services to Wappinger and the southern Dutchess end of the county. And ultimately that would include possibly a veterans museum spearheaded by the county, and maybe even some programs, whether they're seminars, meetings, roundtables directed toward veterans. So that is another line of rentals that we never had before, that the county is also interested in moving here, which would, get the space used.
So what I'm trying to figure out is, right, number one, do you have a business plan, right? So if we put 23,000 in, that's going to do X amount of revenue. Then there's phase two.
Yes.
So I assume phase two has, so what I want to see is kind of a long-term return on investment kind of thing, so that, this seems like it's a no-brainer to do right now, but again, I just want to see an overall business plan that says, here's the
I'll be
expected revenue,
submitting
cost,
that
et cetera.
during the budget process.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
it's
as I had mentioned
been
before.
finalized.
Okay.
Yes.
I
But it
think
has
that's important before we make any more financial decisions.
Of course, and again, just to again put in perspective, this 23,000 would be a commitment from the town, which again we've been greatly appreciative of the prior commitments, which shows that the town is moving in this direction with the new roof on the former chapel there, the fire alarm system. So the town's already moved in that direction. But then the following phases, we would have that funding from Dutchess County. And then also the Friends of Carnwath, we have a good chunk of change in our bank account. They would be able to put into the cosmetic renovations, which would be the phase 3 aspect, getting that new main gallery, former chapel space renovated and painted and looking nice. So we have all those specifics in that business plan, which will be submitted to
How
you.
much do we have left in the Carnwath account this year? Because I know we transferred some money. Steve got a couple of checks, and I think last week or
It's
2
what,
weeks ago, we made some transfer.
38,000, 35, 38,000?
Well, the Friends of Carnwath, that's separate
separate.
account.
No, I'm just
That's
talking
separate,
about the-
yeah. But in the actual town budgeted
15,
Carnwath,
18,000?
I don't know. I know that you guys had reallocated
Yeah.
some funds here and
Okay.
there. I was not
That I
aware.
don't know.
So
how
tonight,
much.
are you looking for approval for the amount of money, the additional money that's not in the Carnwath account to go ahead and approve? Is that what you're looking for?
I'm looking, yes, for the town to move forward on the 23,000.
Well, it would at least need to be contingent on getting grant funding, right? from
Yes, of course.
the
And
county.
the grant funding is
Okay.
is already coming. It's
So
just
this is
gonna be
getting water
announced.
in. What about getting it out? How is our sewer and septic looking at? Okay.
So it was recommended for us to look at the lines going out, but again, when the building was operational and when we have flushed the toilets, because we took buckets of water, that's actually how we were flushing the toilets for a period of time, taking buckets of water and flushing them down. The drain lines were okay. They continued to be okay, especially after the 2 feet of water we had in the water main break.
Right.
That water had to empty out through the drain lines. And then also, so you're aware, the administration building, which is fully operational thanks to Steve and his guys, fully replumbing and doing the HVAC in there, that goes to the same septic field.
I would dare say, as big as the septic is, you talked about it, you're not there enough to realize if, I mean, that could be leaking right underneath the street, you probably wouldn't realize it. So my question is, I think we should have it looked at.
Yeah, course.
Because we're starting, so you get water in, it's partial water in, then we need to check the sewer and septic, and then you're gonna have to heat it. If you have water in the building, you need to heat it, obviously, because then we have a
That's
big
why
problem.
we're
with
doing
that.
the phase 2, yes.
So, could we get an overall cost analysis with, not guessing, but
What
an
are we
engineer
guessing?
setting, or, because I can put a hole in the ground and dump water down it.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes, I want to see if the septic works.
Yeah,
If
I mean,
there's-
and just to put in perspective, Councilman, we did have that camp going on out there, and children used the bathroom, and they were using the bathroom in the administration building, and
But it is a
was-
fair
yes.
question.
And it is a fair
We can have
que-
Mike
yes.
Tripp or
just-
somebody, or the engineers
We can have
look
them
at the
test it.
septic and just run a line down there.
Because the place is
Take a
old,
look.
it hasn't been used regularly, it needs to be looked at, and I'm not against doing it. I just want to know what our true costs are going to be, because we have a bad habit of doing here, and then doing here, and doing here, and then all of a sudden it's 3 times as much.
Well, of course,
and-
and that's why it also took a while for us to even get this
Right.
proposal to you, is we didn't want to go into those high costs. We want to
Right.
actually circle down, drill down to that main number, what the project is going to be. And again, I think that's a good move, maybe see if CPL could
What
test
would
the
it,
drain
what would it
lines.
cost to heat the building? I mean, to get a heating system into there?
Well, that's
we
that's
know?
the next phase that would be covered by
Okay.
the county
For the
grant, and we
grant,
have
right.
those specifics there.
But again, if you're going to turn water on, we better make sure we got heat on,
Of
because
course, and
we'll have a problem again.
that's why the plan right now is to, again, do the plumbing infrastructure, keep the water turned off until springtime, unless we happen to approve the HVAC over the winter, then, we can turn on
Do
sooner.
we have an idea of those costs?
We do have, yes, we do, yes, we do.
Yeah,
And that-
previously, that was submitted to the board, last.
Yes, it was, and we ended up looking at a different approach as well, not to use the existing system, not
Right.
to heat the entire building, but to look at Mitsubishi's,
Yeah.
the split units for the 2 community rooms there, and to get really unique and creative with our approach to heating the building. And we've had a couple independent contractors go in there and give us estimates.
Yeah, as I recall, it was approximately 37,000 in order
correct.
to do the heater that was, delivered
That
to
would
us
be to the
before.
2
the
floors,
materials. So
the
we can
ground
dig
floor,
those
yeah.
materials out
Yep.
again.
And that'll be paid for by the grant?
Yes,
This way.
that's what we expect the second phase to be paid
So
for.
I can tell you about the septic system, but I've actually talked to Tim, because we were trying to see if we could find some plans from it, because I don't think anybody's seen plans, and,
I told the 2 councilmen that they're in my office.
oh, you have?
From- Yes,
Great.
from the 1994 installation from Greystone. So I have
Yeah,
those
because Mike
plans.
Tremper said he hasn't seen them, and he's one of the experts too, so you want to make sure he's able to see that stuff
Yeah,
too.
of course. So we'll pass along all the information to
Okay.
the, but yeah, all that information is in my office.
Great. That's good to know. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So right now, the water line has to be shut off when the temperature drops, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and Steve takes care of that, right, Steve?
I haven't been involved in this.
Mike Tremper would.
Oh, Mike Tremper
yes,
will?
Mike
Well,
Tremper.
we
Why,
need-
Steve needs to know.
We need to make sure that buildings and grounds,
Yeah.
again, I've
Yeah.
said this countless times. I'm not sure why you're giving an entire presentation, and I'm getting texts from him that he knows nothing about this. Why is that?
I work based off of directives from the supervisor and the town board.
Well,
Okay.
this is the initial presentation, Bill.
Right, but we gotta
I mean-
loop him
Well, that's
in.
why I just raised whether or not Steve knows it, okay?
But he doesn't.
Okay, well, then it has to be discussed.
And the water line that was
We'll talk about
installed,
that
we
some-
also didn't approve. So,
That was donated
matter.
funds. Yes,
Doesn't-
I understand, but that
doesn't
was
matter.
donated funds. So
I
just
know
so the
I know we
taxpayers
went through it
understand.
before, but let's
Okay,
make
Bill.
sure that we're doing things in the right way.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because my concern right now is we have a fire hydrant that's unusable.
One of
Because you
10 on
haven't
the
connected to
property.
a municipal water line, that's gonna be shut off. It's boxed in. There was
Yeah,
no
one of 10 on the
communication to the
property,
fire
yes, sir.
department about that. These are things that need to be done properly, okay? That's an issue. We have a building there that's falling down, that is within the collapse zone of people walking into this building. I've brought this up, I don't know, 100 times. We had it fenced in, it's now not fenced in, okay?
What building is not fenced in, sir?
The mansion, okay?
No fence has been taken down. Actually, we expanded the fence
Joey,
boundary.
you were 12 when we took the fence down, okay?
Yeah, but
So-
you shrunk it 10 years ago.
Right, the
Bill,
collapsed
and-
zone is 1.5 times the building, okay? I don't want to go through this again. We're coming into winter again, we get snow on the top of this building. Every year I bring this up. I don't want people coming into this park to walk around with their families when we have a hazard sitting in the park. The conversation we should be having first and foremost is, what are we doing with this building that's sitting there that is really a hazard? Okay, that needs to be discussed, and it needs to be prioritized before we start dumping money into the building behind it, because there's only one way to get to that building, to walk next to this one.
Councilman Beal, the town board already approved thousands of dollars to go into the Reese Cultural Center, which has showed your commitment to restoring
I
and bringing that
understand that,
property
Joey,
back.
but we have to be realistic here.
Oh,
okay?
we are
'Cause-
being realistic. Are we
No,
going to shut down
because-
the rest of the property based on one building that is
Joey.
fenced in?
We need to be realistic because we have a large elephant in the room that we talk about every year that does not get addressed. I had a taxpayer call me up this week and ask me about this and said, I don't want any taxpayer dollars going towards this building, okay? That's not the one you're talking about.
Yes.
But if we're not gonna be
We're not
maintaining
spending
that.
money on that building. We're not talking about that building.
Right, but that building is still there at the gateway to this facility.
Yeah.
So
Yes, sir.
we get a snow load on that roof, Joey. I don't want anybody walking next to it.
So let's shut down the park if that's your
We have done
opinion.
that. We've done it.
I know you have. I
And the
know.
reason why we've reopened it is because we were supposed to have solutions in place to correct that hazard. Here we are again. Every year, actually since the first meeting I attended in January of 2007, this has come
I'm
up.
aware. The
So
roof was voted
before we
down.
start spending, money on other parts of the property for specific uses or rentals, we need to have a plan in place for that mansion. And we don't have a plan in place.
We did have proposals, which this board rejected with respect to temporary roofing over there, and, we should be approving that to
That's
prevent the collapse.
That's
But the
correct.
board has refused to
Right, but
address that
all due
issue.
respect.
With all due respect to you.
I have voted on
We've
probably over $1
refused
million
to.
in repairs there, including that building, okay? And we still see the building sitting there deteriorating.
Because no roof was put on.
Right, but Joey, you're not gonna put a roof on a building that doesn't have the ability to stand up, okay? There are structural issues with that building that have been identified in engineering reports. We could put a new roof on the building. That doesn't mean it's gonna improve the structural integrity of the building. And this is a conversation we've had before. We need to have a plan with this property that is definitive before we start putting more and more money into it. That's the bottom line. I support your efforts. I support the grant process. Believe me, I do. But as we go into winter each year, the same thing comes up. I have a concern with the structural integrity of that building, especially if a snow load is on that roof. And I'm sure the engineers will agree with me that that building most likely will not stand under a significant snow load.
Well, that's not what we've been advised before, Councilman.
Well, I can
The
show you,
engineers have not said that.
okay, 3 engineering firms ago, I can show you the
But we're
report.
talking about this engineering firm,
Right, but-
okay? We're talking about the past.
We're talking about
But still,
We're talking
current
about
numbers
this
and
one.
current data. as
Right,
well.
but Joey,
Also, just so you know, I have no decision-making abilities. I'm presenting a proposal to you tonight for your consideration. That's what this is.
but the proposal
greater
was
agenda
presented
here.
to us previously to run the water, and we didn't vote on it to do it, and it was still run.
That was not presented before.
Yes,
this
it
board.
was.
Was it?
We tabled it.
Not aware of that.
And then next thing you know, there's a water line running through the park from a fire hydrant, okay? The town board did not approve that. The work was done.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're asking us to further approve this project that we didn't approve to begin with. Think about that. I have nothing
Well,
further.
I have no decision-making abilities in this town.
Town
So-
board approval is required for these projects. I don't care if somebody's gonna donate their time or not. I've said this before and I'll say it again. No work should be done on a town property without town board approval. If somebody gets injured during that project, or if something goes awry after the project is done, I don't care if it's a professional that we work with in this town. I appreciate their generosity. That's not the way things are supposed to be done. It changes the scope of the overall property when we're doing things out of order. So I have nothing further. I appreciate your work on this, but we really need to get together as a town board and prioritize this property.
So be it. Okay, next item is with
Park signs?
respect to park signs.
Thank you, sir.
Jessica, you were going to talk about the signs? No, he's just handing out those materials.
So, I can keep this very short and brief. They look great. What's happening with those is, per the way that the legislation is written, we do have the opportunity to make adjustments for different parks based off of their amenities. For example, Robinson Lane with the lights, Mart's where we're hoping that there will be lights, and other facilities. I know that the supervisor had mentioned a lot of people like to watch sunset at Carnwath. Well, if the park is closed at sunset, they're already breaking the rules, and I'll tell you, it is a beautiful view. So, Steve, myself, the supervisor, and Joey did get together. Joey designed these. We definitely like the layout. There were a couple of wording issues that were fixed since the meeting that we had. But mostly, it's going to reflect what's in the legislation. So if what's in the legislation changes, there may be changes to the wording on these signs. But the layout's pretty nice, and they're gonna be 4x3, yeah. So it looks like there's an awful lot crammed on there, and there is, but they're gonna be large signs.
Do we have a vendor that's going to make the signs? Are we going to do it internally? How are we going to?
Steve's looked into it.
Oh, you're going to do it,
He's gonna
Steve?
be doing it,
That I work with, and we're finalizing the number that we
Yeah.
need in some respects.
yeah.
Okay.
Because something that we spoke about is, in no way would a single sign be appropriate at most of these facilities. They have multiple entrances. They also, have foot entrances versus vehicle entrances. They have a large span. For example, Robinson Lane, you're gonna wanna have one at the gate, near the playground, probably back near the concession stand, and maybe
Right.
even one further back by Challenger. So, our next step, once we have the final verbiage for them, is just to figure out how many we need for each park.
And who's going to determine what's going to say on each one of the signs? I guess you, Steve, Dick, and Joey will work on, because as you said, each park has, not going to have all the same
Yeah.
things for every single park.
And what was given to, what was given to
These
you.
are all customized already?
Yeah, it's all
Has it,
separate,
yeah.
one for each park.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And a lot of the more controversial, I guess, that'll be up for discussion aren't necessarily ones that are on there, because those are procedural for permits and things like that, not clean up after your dog and things like that. So I don't think that the verbiage on these signs will be highly changed by the amendments that'll happen to the legislation. And they're pretty. I mean, you want it to
Yeah,
look
that's a
good.
nice job.
Very great job, really good
You
job.
know,
Yeah, when they're blown up, they should be legible, we think.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
We've looked
Any
at
idea
it
what the
that way.
cost is for these? I mean, they're going to be 4x3, as you said.
not yet.
Not
We
yet.
will.
So Steve, you're just
Yeah.
waiting to get a quote, Steve?
Excuse me?
You're just waiting to get a quote on the cost as well as the vendor?
I'm working with the rest of the members here on the quantity that we need
Okay.
and the final file. And then I'm gonna present that to the supplier and get a quote.
You think you have something by the next meeting?
I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, that part shouldn't, the size
No.
and the scope and the numbers won't change.
Excuse me. There was a question on whether they should be reflective or not. Reflective will add to the cost. With the parks being the majority of them closed at night, I don't know that it's a necessary thing. So that would be your call on that.
What about, I've seen some of these, see the yellow yield signs, they have the solar panels on them. I don't know if something like that's reflective, or are you just going to make the sun reflective?
$1,500 per sign.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And I mean, to be honest, where the majority of these signs are gonna be, if you're there after dark, you're not supposed to be there, so reflective isn't necessarily something needed. And if you're driving past it in a car, you're not gonna be able to read it anyway, so reflective in terms
Okay.
of headlights is not a thing. These are gonna be things that are placed in areas where you're gonna be standing there and reading it.
So,
I just don't wanna order them and then have somebody say, I want them to.
so can you get a quote for both? Can you get a quote for both of them? So one's reflective and one is, I'll call it basic. Can you get 2 quotes?
I can do that.
Yeah. Why don't we do that just so we can see what the difference is, and if it's a lot more money, we may choose to go the less expensive route.
It may limit you in the colors that you have available to you as well.
Speaking of color, does white lettering on a dark background have a different pricing scheme than dark lettering on a white background?
It will be a vinyl print.
Oh, it's a vinyl print, okay.
Yeah, it's a wrap, so this is not a typical sign, which also makes it easier to clean in case it was vandalized. And this is also a customary format of rules, signs, and parks throughout Dutchess County, East Fishkill, Poughkeepsie. They all have this color scheme.
Yeah, and it's not fully comprehensive. I think Jim told Joey it doesn't have to be. Just because it's not on the sign doesn't mean it's something that we
It's
can't
also in
enforce.
local law before you.
He refers to
Yeah.
that down below at the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah, which I just thought of right now, the only other change I would possibly like to see on it is just the recreation website as well. But that's an easy thing to pop on there. I literally just came into my head now. But other than that, I think they're really fantastic.
Did we talk about QR on the signs?
It was
That's a
mentioned.
possibility. We can even add a little, is QR codes, it takes
A
time
lot of
to
people
develop,
don't.
so you can even do like a little sticker.
Right.
You can put it on a post right below it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
so we can do that, post and credit card. You know, sometimes some of our buildings, parks have buildings, so we can put it on.
Where does the speed limit of 15 miles per hour come from?
That is in the local law.
No, it's not. It's 10 miles per hour. There's inconsistencies between the sign language and the proposed statutory regulations we have here. It says 10 miles per hour here and 15 miles per hour here. There's a couple other things that are inconsistent also.
Each part has a different, specific, not that it was listed here.
They'll
Right,
say
but
15.
shouldn't these
But, I mean, This
signs,
is also copied and pasted right from the verbiage I got from the local law, so nothing was amended.
but it's not, that's not accurate because,
Yes,
No, Bill, you are right, it is 10.
Joey, I'm right, okay? It says right here, not as always, and don't even go there, trust me. I'm reading, what do you mean, whatever? You work for us, remember that, okay? And right here in the law that I'm reading, it says 10 miles per hour, okay?
Yes, sir.
Don't tell me it doesn't say 10 miles per hour when I'm telling you it does.
It was copied from there, so there must.
Okay, so how can it be then? You're telling me that you copy and pasted from this when it says 10 miles per hour here and 15 miles per hour here. That's not accurate. There's also a couple other issues here too. Shouldn't the sign data be the same as what's in the law we're looking at passing?
Well, yes, correct.
So why are there discrepancies?
I will have to check with what was pasted from what Joey had to what's on the signs. We can't possibly have every single thing that's in the law on there. So these are the ones that are directly affecting the people who are stepping foot inside the park for an average use. So understanding that this is the behavior and the conduct that's expected of them as they're inside the park. So you're not necessarily gonna have some of the additional procedural things that would be contained in the legislation on the sign. And it would have to be a very big sign.
Is there a way we can take the word missiles out and say projectiles? That sounds like something that they came up with in the 60s when they wrote the original law. No throwing of stones or missiles?
It is worded that way in here, but I
Right,
don't
I mean,
disagree
how
with
about,
you.
I mean, do we need to tell people not to throw stones? I mean, it just seems,
You would be surprised on that one.
and if somebody throws a stone, what happens? They get thrown out of the park? I don't understand this.
A window?
No, if you're throwing a stone at Reese Park, you're gonna get thrown out of the park?
Certain parks have buildings with windows, that was the idea.
I mean, if you look back at the original genesis of these rules, they came from the Commission on Recreation in, I think it was 1960-something, 63 or something like that. So we need to make sure that it's still relevant in 2020. Is the 10-mile-per-hour speed limit or the 15-mile-per-hour speed limits an arbitrary number that somebody just came up with, or is there a standard for parks?
No, I don't believe there's a minimum standard in the code for parks, so you could set it to be whatever you wish.
Is there a speed limit posted on Ralph Holt Way?
Yes,
What is the speed limit?
10.
The one at Carlisle is 15.
Well, then we need to make a decision here on what our speed limit's gonna be, because it shouldn't be different for every park, in my opinion.
I would go with the lower then, just in terms of there are parks with children as pedestrians. So I'll always go with the lower number.
Yeah, I agree. So it looks like we have a couple of inconsistencies we just need to
Yeah.
make some updates to. So I think if you guys can do that, and maybe send us a preview before you come out and present this as the final, so we can make any changes we need to. Give us to. I know you sent it in soft copy today, so thank you. But maybe what we could do is, take a look at ourselves and see if there's, again, some inconsistencies, and make those updates, so when it comes to the next town board meeting, hopefully we can go to final on this.
Sure. I mean, other than the speed limit, everything off the top of my head looks like.
We've been
it
talking
came
about
right
signs
out
for a
of
long
there.
time now,
Yeah.
so it's about time we
So-
finally get these things posted. I mean,
Yeah,
just look at some of the signs over at the soccer field. You can't even read the signs.
Yeah.
That's how old they are. So, again, I appreciate all the work and efforts you guys have put into this, so, but just, make those corrections on the inconsistencies, and I think we'll be good to go. But again, try to send us out as early as you can, because we just got them today in the PowerPoint, so if we can get a little bit more time, we can make some changes.
We'll get one tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Open fires, this is a vague situation that's inconsistent with what we talked about earlier, Barbara. It's not even consistent with our code. Open fires, that is to say, fires not in gasoline stoves, charcoal grills, etc., or fires not in designated places, and any unattended fires are prohibited. So basically, you're saying that charcoal grills are permitted, and gasoline stoves, which I don't even know what that means, is permitted. So I could bring my charcoal grill into a park under this rule and light it. That's not even permissible under the other code. So we need to make sure that these are consistent with existing code. There should be no open fires in these parks, in my opinion, unless they are in a town sanctioned barbecue grill that's mounted permanently in the park.
okay. That conflicts a little bit with the way that things have been. If it's in the code differently, I'm sure it's in the code
Well, I mean, if I bring my
differently.
barbecue grill into the
Yeah.
park, I don't think we want people bringing their barbecue grills into the park and then setting up within 10 feet of the pavilion and burning it down.
In the way that our facility stuff is, and this is part of how, that hasn't changed in the past however long, but one of the things that it does say in our facility rental is that you can bring a grill, you cannot operate it within.
That's under a
10 feet.
permit, though.
Yeah,
These are just general rules. So this is not talking about permits. This is for someone that just happens to come to the park and bring their grill. The provisions under the permit, I understand, setting, standards within the permit. I get that. But right now, this statement right here gives people permission to bring a charcoal grill and a gas stove into a park.
so then.
Now, I understand we want to get these signs up, guys. I get that. We want to push this forward and get it done. But I don't want to be hanging signs up that have contradictory statements or inconsistent statements with a law that we haven't even approved yet.
Well, and that's just it. These aren't in any way up for approval until, very similar to my facility use policy. These can't be approved until the other things are approved. That's, just the 1, 2, 3 of the process. I can't give you a finalized facility use plan if it's gonna conflict with what's in the regulations. These park signs, outside of what I believe is a very nice layout, are not finalized until until after we codify the law. So these won't be up or out before the law is settled.
The only other thing I would say is underneath the sheriff's office statement, which I think is good, report any violations to 845-486-3800. I think underneath that it should say, in an emergency, dial 911. We don't want to create confusion, which can happen if somebody calls a 7-digit, they should be calling 911 if there's an emergency. To report the maybe even put it above it. I mean, emergencies, call 911 or contact the sheriff's office to report any violations. of the town park rules and regulations. I agree with that statement. I just think that if we're gonna put a phone number up there, we should remind folks that if there's an emergency in the park, they can call 911. And if they call 911, their cell phone's gonna be pinged to that location. If they call the 7-digit and it's a transfer, it may not work.
Yeah.
So that's the issue.
Would putting fire or medical emergency?
I would just say any emergency.
Any emergency?
If somebody
Okay.
falls down a ravine, I don't want people saying, well, is this really an emergency or
Right.
not? Yeah, just call.
It's an emergency. Timmy's down the well, so
So.
we will call 911.
Again, I appreciate all your hard work, and I don't want to sound like I'm unappreciative here, but I really, it's very important to me that section 171 is consistent with what we are putting out there on these signs. Because then, if someone violates one of these statements on this sign, and they just challenge it and say, well, then you gotta throw all the signs out.
Yeah.
Or have them all repaired, or fixed.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, we gotta do it right the first time. This is something we've, been talking about for years, so. All right.
So I guess to the sense of the board regarding barbecue grills, and other things of that nature, is the intent of the board to prohibit them unless there's a permit issued, or, a general prohibition except by permit issued by the Recreation Department?
My opinion is that if they're gonna be bringing any sort of, device like that into the park, there should be a permit in place.
Right.
Especially, during, the time of the year where we have the burn ban.
Yep.
We can't have people going in there and, going to Home Depot and buying a 22-inch, bowl like I was talking to you about earlier, and just lighting up a chimney or something.
And where the hot coals go when they.
Right.
Right,
You know
so.
where they go.
That's
mean-
why I'm not a big fan of those park-mounted charcoal grills, so
Right,
I'm
and
not a fan of
at
them in
the end of the
general.
day, the law for even open burning here in the town has not evolved with what you can buy at Home Depot now. We had this conversation via emails earlier, so I'd rather keep any sort of open fire or, cooking fire should be under permit, in my opinion, in our parks.
Do we have any barbecue grills?
Not a
No.
single one.
No.
So if we did have
So then it
those,
would
that
just
would
be
be
a straight
good.
ban.
If we
Yeah.
did have those ones that are on the stands that are concrete into the ground, that's different in my opinion.
Yeah.
But now, anyone that wants to cook has to bring their own appliance in, and I think that,
Too great of a risk.
yeah, that
And
could,
I think it's probably good to omit because the odds of somebody walking, in some ways it's necessary, in some ways it's not necessary, because the odds of somebody, just knowing what people do in our parks, somebody just setting up and doing that is unlikely, so it is better to just permit it, not permit it, prohibit it unless you're having a use permit in general, just everything, no good.
there's also a loophole here where somebody could actually light a campfire in our park, because right here it says no unattended fires. Unattended fire is prohibited, so, I'm not sure we want people, making fire rings and
I think, Bill, it's going to be contingent
Yeah.
on the emails that we've had and the
Yeah.
change to the code, right, on
Right,
the
but
fire.
our code doesn't even speak to that right
No,
now.
well, I think we have to address that,
Yeah.
is what we're saying.
So, the language would be no fires of any sort are permitted in the park without permit of the town.
Right, and I think that's a fair statement because, again, we see what's happening in California right now. Let's,
Right.
pray to God that we never have a situation like that. But there are times during the year where we have burn bans in effect. And I certainly wouldn't want somebody thinking it was okay to cook some s'mores in our park at 9 o'clock at night. And then it gets away from them. That's all.
That's good. No,
Just trying to
that's
cover
fine.
the bases here.
That's fine. I know a lot of this, and I don't know exactly which municipalities. I know a lot of it was modeled after other municipalities, but that doesn't mean they work for us. So,
Keep in
I
mind,
think-
though,
No, that's-
the other municipalities, 'cause
Yeah.
I was looking at codes from 2 other municipalities today.
Yeah.
We're not the only town that has antiquated code.
No.
Oh,
we're not.
absolutely. Yeah.
You know, right? We were
Yeah.
looking at this today. I'm not mentioning any
Nearly all of
names.
them. Oh, I know
but,
which ones.
No.
I felt kind of good about the fact that other towns were,
I spent most of the morning
Worse.
researching it.
I didn't say that.
Well, I'm saying that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
We're trying
and I know which ones you're talking about.
We're trying to tighten things up here a little bit.
No,
that's all.
absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Long
Do not leave your horse unattended.
Long overdue, though.
I'm not going to comment on the horse or pony thing because I was literally pulled aside at Hannaford by a stranger that said, "Hey, you're not riding your horse in the park." Somebody saw it on TV.
That's awesome.
They
That's
actually-
fantastic.
They actually do
No,
ride
to
horses
re-
down in Castle Point. I've seen them done there before.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, they've been in the Carnway, too.
All right, so I think this sign should be amended that said, "No person except for William H. Beal is permitted to ride a horse in any park."
You're not gonna catch me on a horse anytime.
Need a picture of that.
Okay, Jessica, why don't you move on to,
Yes.
I think we got.
Okay.
Yeah, we went a little long on that one, so I'll try to be really brief and just give the quickest of updates on the things that we have going on, and then I'll take questions on any of them towards the end. So I'll start with what is the bad news, and really the only bad news that I have, which Councilman Phillips knows exactly what it is. The installation at Quiet Acres was supposed to begin at the second half of last week, and the installer was a no-call, no-show for that installation. So there were emails that were going back and forth today. I'm sure you gentlemen saw it.
Absolutely.
About having some direct contact with this installer rather than having the salesman be kind of a go-between. I don't think that's working for us. I don't think it's working for Steve, and, you know.
So I thought they gave Steve a direct number to call now, so they can call the installer directly, at least they were supposed to.
They brought him in on our email link. Steve already has a direct phone number
Okay.
for Heath.
So,
Yeah,
so we have two members in the audience today that work at the Rockingham Playground.
Correct.
And so they're gonna probably wanna know, since Quiet Acres being delayed by at least a couple of weeks, what does that mean for Rockingham?
and that's what we're waiting on an answer for Heath from, because in the email that I sent out, I very specifically said, we need the timeline of when you're doing Quiet Acres, because that affects Rockingham. So we need to get from Heath, as he was looped in on this email thread where I expressed my dissatisfaction, or disappointment, I think I kindly put it, with this schedule, that we need a timeline for all of it.
So is the other one actually shipped yet, the second playground set? Because the other one sits at the highway
Yeah.
garage right now?
It hasn't. It hasn't.
What happened to 3.5 weeks?
I think they are holding this one until we get closer to the installation date,
How about
but
ship it up here so the installer can do both of them at the same time, rather than them come back 2 or 3 weeks
No,
later? It
and
makes no sense.
from what I talked with John, that is what's going to happen, but basically they need to get a shovel in the ground on Quiet Acres before they ship the other one out, because otherwise it is just it's gonna be easier to deliver it on site when they get to Rockingham. So hopefully when they send us out that full timeline, of, we are going to start on this date, and we will be finished by this date theoretically, and the next project will resume, or will begin.
So they are gonna, when they can
right
give us that
after that.
timeline? I mean, this is ridiculous now.
They got back to us this afternoon with Heath looped into it, so he has been instructed to provide us that.
Can you make sure I'm on copy? Because I want to have direct
Yeah, no, you're
Okay.
on there, you're on there.
contact. I mean,
Which
unacceptable it's taken this long.
it is, and what I find to be most unacceptable about it, and what I expressed to our sales representative, is things happen, delays happen, but you don't not show up.
You got to
That's-
communicate to us. If it's
yeah.
going to be delayed, they
Yeah.
should be communicating.
Exactly. So if, I think in a text message, said to Councilman Phillips, I don't want to go off on somebody and it turns out his grandmother died, or something like that, but they need to have this communication with us of why they're not coming. They can't just not show up. There are also things after the fact that we can do when you are working with New York State bid lists. You do have the opportunity afterwards to submit what you felt was your experience with a
Oh, a survey.
particular company.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, so, there is a direct on the bid contracts. It tells you if you have any issues, concerns, or complaints about this vendor, please feel free to,
Can we talk to him about a discount?
until Heath gets back to us, which he hadn't as of when my email went down at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and I can't get into it. We haven't gotten that far yet.
I
We
didn't
should
see
talk with-
anything, because I was
You
copied
didn't
on.
see anything? Yeah, okay.
No, I was copied
Yeah,
on.
my
We should
emails-
talk to John, the person we bought the swing set, and
Yeah.
see if he's got any pull, try to get us a discount on the installation.
Yeah.
Like you said, I appreciate all your follow-ups, But with them not communicating with us, that's unacceptable.
That's a major issue.
It's unacceptable.
That's an issue. I mean, again, if it was a good, I know right now nothing feels like a good excuse to us because we want to have this done, and the delays are becoming an issue. But again, if there was some sort of genuine issue, we should have known about it. And we wouldn't have been as angry about it as we are at this moment had we known what the actual issue was. So I will continue to be on top of them.
Is he the only installer in town that we have, or is there other people we can look at? Because there's going to be another follow-up probably, I think, in the first ward. He's going to be coming to us looking for a potential playground, I would imagine, at some point in time, so
I don't
this is not good, this is
necessarily-
not a good experience.
No, I was gonna say, I don't think I would necessarily recommend them as, I mean, their equipment's really good, okay? The customer service from the sales representative, I felt was satisfactory. It just hit this snag with this installer, and something that I can do, if Heath does not give us a really solid timeline and something that he sticks to, I would rather him tell me it's gonna be 3 weeks from now and he actually shows up 3 weeks from now than tell me it's gonna be the end of this week and not show up.
What happens if the ground freezes?
Exactly.
That's
an
that's
option
the issue
for a
we're running
different
into right
installer?
now.
That, well, and that's what I was gonna follow that up to, is if this gentleman comes back to us and has, something ridiculous, like, I'm not going to be there for 2 months, John does have additional crews, and I will be requesting a different crew, because this is not okay. We signed paperwork, we signed contracts, and they, need to be realistic with us.
Do we give them a deposit?
The playground equipment has already been paid for, we get the
Oh,
labor.
but the installer, do we have to give them a
Has-
deposit?
no.
Okay.
Nope. So.
Steve, did they give you any idea what kind of equipment they're bringing in? I ask because if they're unloading at Rockingham, if they don't have a lull, how are they gonna unload the truck?
I was told they have some kind of equipment to lift the materials. I don't know
Okay.
what specifically that is, but they would, because I asked that myself, I'm gonna have to move the playground from
Yeah,
highway over there on our trailer, and I, don't necessarily wanna move my machine over then
right.
to unload it. But he will have, lifting equipment on site. What it is, I don't know.
Okay.
Steve, are you in contact with the installer?
Just through the emails and such. He did call me at one point. I didn't think to record the number, but he's in the email loop here now. And at 3 o'clock, I hadn't seen any response to it.
So the way the process has been going thus far is we put together an action plan for this and who was gonna be the contact for this, who was gonna be the contact for that.
Who's the contact for what? Who's the,
For different portions of the project, so.
who's managing this project?
Right now, me. So basically, at this point, we're in the phase of installation where Steve is the lead on installation. So I started, with the quotes and the contracts and the sales and all that. And then we it shifted over to being, what's Steve's portion of the project which is the site work, which has been done. The contacts with delivery, installation, mulch, all those kinds of things. So just the fact that they know and have all of Steve's contact information and are supposed to be going directly to him with any updates of when they're coming, when they're not coming, if they're not gonna show up.
Right, but I feel like we should be calling the shots at this point, not them telling us, not them calling us. We should be calling them every single day, twice a day.
And
That's what we should be doing, in my opinion, because now we have a hard stop. Once this ground freezes, right? Yeah, we're at
Correct.
77 degrees today, but we were at 32
Yeah.
last week on the overnight. I'm getting a little nervous here, and this isn't even my ward.
No,
This
I
isn't
know.
even my side of town. I don't want to be in a situation where these things are going to be boxed up, sitting in a storage unit until March.
No, and this is a situation that is exceptionally recent. This is something that happened Friday. They were supposed to be there Friday, and we've already been.
Right, but they
in-
scheduled, my understanding reading those emails is they scheduled their time that they would be here. They didn't show up on Thursday, then they didn't show up on Friday, so that's strike one, strike two. Here we are today, we don't have an answer on Monday by the end of business day. That to me
Yeah.
is not, that's a red flag.
To me, very much, and that's why, without a clear written and thing that we can hold them to, that they've put in writing outside of the contract that they're gonna do it, they need to give us that, because we do need to see what action we have to take if they're not.
So one of the things I
gonna
found
do
out
the
though, when I
bargain.
was dealing with the contractor to try to get the place sets, is I called John a couple of times, and it's better than to call than to email, because sometimes you don't get a straight answer. So I was on the phone with a number of times, you know, working on a discount for the playground. And I think picking up the phone and calling, and you're gonna have to do it, I agree with Bill, call them every day,
Yeah,
call them every day.
and
Ask them where it is.
up until the point where they began behaving in a dissatisfactory manner, we were checking in with them really frequently. When's this getting shipped? When are you guys coming? When is this gonna happen? So, starting today is when we really started putting a push on them. I can't force them to answer us, but I can continue to follow up with them, which is what has been happening as of today, now that we're aware of this problem. So we are on them, you know.
If you need some help with a phone call, please let me know, because I'll be happy to call them.
I tend to be an email person, because then it's in writing. Anyone can tell me anything on the phone.
Yeah, but you still had it in
Yeah.
writing, they still didn't show up, so that didn't do any
Email is
good.
passive. I would say at this point, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I'd be on the phone, I'd be calling them every hour tomorrow.
Yeah.
What's going on? The town
Yeah.
board wants answers, these things need to be, actually, more importantly, the residents want answers.
Yeah.
It puts us in a bad position where we take the time to deliberate an expense that is
Significant.
a significant expense for each one of these, okay?
Yeah.
And now we should never have a question we should never not have an answer for the residents. And right now, I feel like we don't have an answer for the residents,
Correct.
and they're creating that scenario.
Correct. And that is why I am definitely exceptionally, we're on television, I'll use the word disappointed, because anything stronger would probably get us in trouble. But the way that I'm feeling about this experience right now is quite unpleasant, and we're on them, and we'll continue to be on them.
Okay.
So, that was my only bad news.
So what's the good news?
Yeah, I know, so everything from here is up. All right, let's just scratch out the bad news. Okay, so the senior center, exciting things happening. We've, as you know, been having bocce and shuffleboard. In the beginning of October, we are beginning our art class again. That is a smaller class. We can appropriately socially distance and wear masks inside the senior center for this. We can have a single person at each table, with the exception of the couple married couples that we have. So we are resuming that Tuesday, October 6th. We're not gonna have our full enrollment on it, purely because some people don't feel comfortable coming back, and that is their right, and that's fine. But we're just glad that we're being able to add some of these things back into our schedule, feel normal again. So, on top of that, we're also gonna be having, twice a month movie days again. That will be in here, because we do usually serve lunch. We're gonna order pizza, it's gonna be $2 a person. We have to do it in here because they have to take their masks off to eat. So, a limit of 10 people in this room. That's why we're gonna do it twice a month, because we have to limit the number of people. The Elks Christmas luncheon, holiday luncheon, the Elks holiday luncheon. We're gonna do it as a drive-through. The Elks is not booking their venue through the end of this year. Any other venue, the cost is, we pay like $9 a person from the Elks. We can't really afford anywhere else. So they are, last I heard, going to cook for us. I got that good news. And we are going to package and prepare. We will also, as usual, get our a Board of Health food service permit for that. Even though we're not preparing it, we are packaging and serving. So it'll be drive-through Christmas. We're gonna do it right here at Town Hall. We've got a good layout for it. I have spoken to Santa. Santa will be there, all right, which is the most important portion of this. So as of right now, it's gonna be our standard fare, turkey dinner, apple pie. I found apple cider juice boxes. So we usually serve them apple cider, but we can serve them apple cider juice boxes. I don't see any additional expense for this. You know, it's really gonna be pretty much the same expense that we usually have, if not a little less, actually. But we're modeling this really after the senior county picnics, things like that. We can't move to an outdoor venue, it's gonna be December. But we need to continue to do this. This is a tradition that's been happening for decades. And the seniors look forward to it every year. So we need to do it in the safest way that we can do it. And this is the best way. It really is. I know, I think it was, the county also did the Golden Gathering as a drive-through, things like that. So we're working on that. We'll give you guys a date as soon as we have it. Now that we know for sure we're not having it at the Elks and we are doing it drive-through, it'll be one day because we'll just serve everybody up in one day. And I will let you all know so that you all can be there should you like to stand in the cold with us. So, any questions on that one, or sounds good?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. There you go. See, I told you, it's all good news from here. We have an organization, it is Skyhawks Sports. They are looking to do a partnership with us on beach volleyball, which is our outdoor volleyball court. So just to start you off at the beginning, the COVID precautions for volleyball involve limited numbers, no competition. So you can have a practice, you can have a recreational activity for it, you cannot have competitive, which all of this falls right under that. So what this organization would do is they would come in, they would use our beach volleyball courts, they do the registration, they do the training in COVID procedures for the staff, they do all of that, and we receive a 10% commission back as the facility use. So instead of charging them our specific facility use fee, we would receive that as a commission, and we would also be able to put our name on it with them. So right now, when so few things can run, athletically in terms of our programs, because we are so reliant on the schools, being able to use this outdoor facility, and they're looking to get started as early as like the 17th of October on Saturdays. This is one, it doesn't necessarily need a board action because it's a facility use, but as I've said, I'm not gonna put these things out there without talking to the town board first.
And how long does this thing run for?
7 weeks.
7 weeks?
Yeah, and they handle all the financials of it too. The only thing that I'm not fond of when we contract out is the price is significantly higher for the enrollees. So when we hold our clinics, they're $60 for a 7-week clinic. It's about double that, but understandably, they have a lot more overhead than we do, and we wouldn't necessarily be able to do this right now on our own anyway, because they already have all of the specialized equipment and sanitation equipment and trained staff in COVID precautions for instructing, and they do this in Orange County. They do this, I want to say she said Rockland County. So it's a very prepackaged thing that makes a lot of sense for us to do at this time.
How many
So-
courts do we have over there? Just the one?
Just the one. Yeah.
I have no objection.
All right, there we go. Good news number 2. All right. Our craft fair, it is still happening. It is October 17th. We're moving it outside. We are moving it outside to the perimeter of Town Hall, so the grassy areas and the sidewalks. This fits with all the COVID precautions that we need to take. We are going to be allowing parking here at Town Hall, but we are going to have a large number of staff just to make sure that we're not really mixing pedestrian traffic and car traffic, because we don't want anyone to get backed over. So we will be working on getting the staffing for that and the plan for that. We're not going to be serving food. We are looking to bring in a food truck to serve breakfast and lunch. because we are moving outside, just run, you know, the running back and forth from our small kitchen, that's not gonna work. The only other thing is something, considering right now, most craft fairs are canceled, most people don't have the opportunity to do it the way that we are by moving it outside, and with the struggle of small business that's happening right now, we generally charge a $25 vendor fee. We would like to not do that this year. We don't have a food budget this year. Really, the only thing we're paying for is the personnel to staff it. And listen, they're struggling. $25 is a lot in a time like this. So that is one thing I would need, not even really a motion, just everyone to be okay with.
And you said you had 35?
We have, one of them turned out to be
Yeah,
direct
okay.
sales, so we had to ask her
Sure.
not to, but we're
But
getting
we
there.
have a good,
We have a good number. We're around 29 right now.
29 vendors.
As long as all
I agree
COVID,
with the-
Yes. well,
as long as all COVID
making
best
sure
practices are
that's-
followed,
Yeah.
Yep.
whatever they be that day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, just to give you a brief example, some of the ones that we have, we're gonna have hand sanitizing stations. We are instructing our vendors to not let anyone try anything on. That's one of our biggest,
Well, that's up to them. That's up to
Yeah.
them to enforce that. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, and, because, you know, scarf, a hat, that, we're instructing our vendors, they are not to let anyone try anything on. That's something that we're telling them. But it is up to them to follow that, unless I see them, and then I will yell.
And obviously, everyone has to wear a face covering.
Correct.
We have to try to do our best to encourage social distancing, everything
Yeah.
that we normally do. I have no objection
Yep.
relative to the fee. I think that this year, I don't have an issue with that. The object of the fee is to pay for the overhead we have that day. I don't have an issue with absorbing it this year since, you know, we're trying to encourage some level of activity
Activity,
here.
right.
Yeah. For
So-
some people, this is the only event they're
Yeah,
gonna be
that's my
participating
feeling.
in
Yeah,
this
that's
year.
why
we're doing it
That's
this
fine,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yep.
It's nominal
Another
cost,
bit of
so-
good
No.
news
No, we
off
don't have
the
food.
list. So we have a gentleman who is interested in hosting something very similar to our craft fair, but in a version of a small Comic-Con, not anything like you're seeing on TV, but vendors, things like that. And in speaking with him about our different parks, I had talked about Carnwath and Schlatthaus. He's actually very interested in setting it up near identical to the way that we're setting up our craft fair and doing it at Town Hall. Literally just spoke to him today about this, so I don't have a ton of details. I'll have more for you in October, but I just wanted to let you know that this is another good thing that's on the
When
horizon
would this be?
for us. He is looking at the end of October, so we're talking either the 24th or the 31st, right on Halloween. So it would be a near identical setup to our craft fair, vendor booths.
I think since that's a private endeavor, we need to look at some sort of a permit fee to cover
Yes.
any expenses we have for personnel.
And he's fine with that. You know, I spoke to him, I said, honestly, with our permit process, you're looking at something $250 or under.
Okay.
And he was fine with that.
Okay.
He was completely fine with that. So that is good news. That is on the horizon. Good news for this weekend. So we're showing Hocus Pocus in the park. We are doing this as a bit of a substitute for our trunk or treat that we usually hold, because I know some other places are doing their trunk or treats, but I do not particularly find that to be safe. I find that you're probably parading 400 little exposure risks past every trunk. And actually, it is on the CDC guidelines that just came out of things that you should not be doing. So instead, at our Hocus Pocus movie showing on Saturday, the movie starts at 7, but we have 150 activity packs and snack packs for the first 150 kids that arrive. It's gonna have a craft activity in it, it's gonna have some coloring activities in it, it's gonna have snacks, it's gonna have candy. It's pretty much everything that we would have for them to do at trunk or treat, but in a bag, and for them to take to their social distancing square and participate in alongside their family.
And when is that?
That is this Saturday.
What time?
The bag handouts and seating will start at 6 p.m. The movie starts at 7. Oddly enough, we are going to have a ton of adults at this. Hocus Pocus is, in my opinion, the best Halloween movie ever. But it's a very nostalgic movie, especially for folks my age. It came out when I was younger, and we all love it. So we do have a lot of interest in adults for coming. Now, we have 2 buildings and grounds guys who are going to be helping us out, and we actually, because of what we believe to be the increased traffic of not necessarily condensed families, but adults, we have 2 sheriffs that are going to be helping us out.
2 sheriff's deputies.
2 sheriff's deputies, yeah. Not 2 Butch Andersons, that would not. So we have them coming. It is the same as our standard operation. There are social distancing squares. If you step outside your square, you need your mask on. The only foreseeable displeasure that anyone might have with this event is when we're full, we're full. We had talked about pre-registration and this and that. It doesn't work with this model, because if you're reserving a square for someone and they don't show up until 5 minutes after the movie, then you've got an empty square and you turn somebody away. It's first come, first serve. When the squares are full, we're full. If you want to sit in your car and listen, you can do that. We're gonna have to be firm. We've expanded our seating area so that we can have more squares and things like that. So we're gonna be on top of everybody to really follow those social distancing procedures. And I can tell you, thus far this summer, everyone's been really good about it. I did have a 3-year-old get loose and run through the park without her mask on, but her mom got her, so we're good.
Good luck getting a mask on a 2 or 3-year-old.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
It
my
is.
kid is 2 now, and the rules say he's supposed to wear a face covering.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. Whoever wrote that rule didn't have a 2-year-old.
You know what's interesting?
No, he doesn't.
What's interesting is, and I'll make this little anecdote brief, they adapt so quickly, because we had a little girl the other night whose mom got up and put her mask on and walked to the garbage can, and she's going, "Mommy,
Yeah,
put my mask on."
the world we live in.
Yep, so they do adapt fast, but whether they keep them on for more than 5 minutes is the other.
So as long as we're continuing to follow the COVID best practices, which we have been a leader, in my opinion, in this town by doing so, I have no objection to your proposal
Yeah.
for that, and also no objection to you having to, unfortunately, having to turn people away, because they
Yeah.
need to understand at this point that it's first come, first served.
Yeah.
We're doing the best we can here. We're doing more than most.
Yeah.
We really are.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to really give you guys the heads up about is, the internet's a powerful thing, but it's also a place where, people do like to express displeasure with things. So if you are seeing something that says, "I got turned away," or whatever.
Just monitor social media. I mean,
Yeah,
Exactly.
we had to. So, I just wanted to head that off before.
No, you're taking the right steps.
Yeah.
I agree.
Before. So, last good news, and then I will relieve you of my presence, is we are starting to close out our books on Robinson Lane. Right now, we have $13,125 in our pockets and in the bank for Robinson, which is $2,000 more than last year. Now, we also have $5,325 worth of invoices that still have to get paid to us. So that puts us at an all-time high of $18,450,
Very
which
good.
is like
That's excellent.
Yeah, so that's pretty big. So I wanted to end on that fantastic news that that's the most money we've made at that facility.
One of the things we got to take a look at next year, I think, is look at the fee schedule.
I do think we need to look at the fee schedule. We were doing it incrementally because we didn't want to just keep, popping it up on everybody all at once, but we are due. We are due for a fee increase out there. As always, I would push for the infrastructure of getting LED lights out there so it doesn't cost us as much and we don't have to charge as much. But as Steve can tell you, that is an expense that is very, very high up front. So I think that we're going to have to push through with having high light rental fees for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
Well, before we discuss increasing fees, we need to understand where we're gonna be next year. We have double-digit unemployment right now and still a lot of unanswered fiscal questions, so
That's right.
I don't wanna start even having that
No,
conversation.
No, no,
have
no,
not
no.
allowed any
No.
discussion.
And
It's not
we,
gonna work.
we like to do slow and steady, so we're not talking anything big. And it's nothing that I can do or would do, obviously, legally, without putting it in front of the board first.
All I can tell you is that $25 a field for 3 hours is
Oh, it's bottom
inexpensive.
dollar.
Very inexpensive compared to other
Yeah.
towns, so
I
that's why he has
yeah.
to take a look at the fee itself. Not that I want
Yeah,
to
no,
turn
I
people
agree
away,
with
but
reviewing them, I just don't wanna,
Yeah.
I don't wanna inadvertently make people think we're trying to find,
no,
No,
not at all.
No.
I
and
mean, we
it's-
are, but we should
Yeah.
probably do it in different ways.
Yeah.
No, I
and-
hear what you're saying, Al. No, I understand what you're saying. And we have to, each year we need to review the fee structure, I get that, but, there's a lot of unknowns right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was the outcome with that car show proposal for Carnwath?
I am still waiting to hear.
Okay, so we got clearance the next day from the Assistant County Executive, Ron Hicks, saying that is a low-impact event that would comply with COVID-19 guidelines. I have an email from him stating that with attached documentation. And he gave the further opinion that since it is a municipal park and recreation facility, that would operate at 30% capacity. So
Okay.
Carlisle is 99 acres, so you can
All
do
right.
the math and figure that out.
All right, so, like I said last meeting, or whenever that was, if we just make sure we have documented from Ron Hicks's interpretation, so that if there's any questions, we have that. More importantly, let's make sure we continue to follow the best practices of COVID, as we've been doing. An event like that, as you can imagine, can generate a number of people that could show up all at once, right? So we want to make sure that we have plans in place to social distance people, right? Otherwise, I'd love to see that move forward.
Yeah. And I think the organization is going to submit that to us.
Yes, their
Okay.
insurance, we're getting their reminder this week.
But like did they give you a COVID plan?
Yes, yes, they
Okay,
did.
all right. I just want to go over that.
Just one other thing under recreation, Steve, the basketball hoop on South Fowler House, do we have an update on that?
No.
Okay. Because I had the resident ask me on Saturday what the status of the basketball hoop is.
We have to discuss the cost.
Well, I thought we discussed the
I
cost.
thought we did.
So if we can move ahead with that basketball hoop replacement, I believe is what we want to do, right? It needs a new backboard and a new hoop. If we can at least get that done, you know, just to further clarify, I mean, I'll move that we spend no more than $1,000 on it.
But Steve, didn't your quotes come in more than that?
It's gonna be right around that number, just I don't have that.
Yeah,
amount
slightly
in my,
more.
Budget line.
I would say
So why don't you
1,200
just make it up
though,
to 1,500?
or
All right.
1,500.
I'll move that we spend no more than $1,500 to replace the backboard and the basketball hoop on South Fowler House.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes.
So whatever it costs, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
So that concludes my good and bad news portion of this evening. I hope that you are happy with all but one of the things that you heard, but just know that we're on top of those gentlemen, so
Thank you
it'll
for
get
your,
done.
thank you for adapting our programs to the pandemic.
Yes,
It's
thank you
greatly
very much.
appreciated, not only by us, but I hear from residents, you know, we're trying to do our best to keep people socializing, socially distanced, and keeping our momentum moving, as difficult and challenging as it is, so thank you.
Yes,
You're
thank you very
welcome.
much, Jessica.
All
Thank you,
right.
Jessica.
Have a good one.
Okay.
Okay.
Move into our resolution section. First resolution is 2020-110. Jim, do we have a bond yet?
No, so we'll continue this. I have to,
Gonna table it again?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna table it. So I have a motion to table.
I'll make a motion to table it again.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the
Jim,
motion passes.
just
Yeah.
a question for you. I mean, they keep tabling because they have the bond. Instead of putting it on the next agenda, can we think about moving it a month out? I mean, it seems like
that's
every 2
fine.
weeks.
Yeah, we move it out.
that's fine.
I think Joe's program had
Right, it just
automatically
reminds
moved to
us,
the next one.
it just,
Yeah.
Just, in the absence of somebody telling me I move it to the next
Right.
So I'm just thinking, Jim, how long do you think it'll take? This way we'll make sure we put it on, and hopefully when the bond's approved, rather than having to table it every
Put
single
it
time.
on the second meeting in October.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Okay, thanks. Next resolution, Resolution 2020-126. This is a resolution adopting local law number 3 of 2020, which would amend Chapter 240 zoning, Chapter 217 subdivision of land, Chapter 145 go-karts, and Chapter 122 fees and fines of the town code with respect to a variety of matters.
Move.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
Just for the record, the Dutchess County Department of Planning had made some recommended code changes, which were incorporated into the local law, so it is consistent now with the recommendations of Dutchess County Planning.
I'm afraid to ask.
No, that was the one with respect to parking.
Oh, okay, all right. We already discussed that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, next resolution is 2020-154. This is a resolution adopting local law number 4 of the year 2020, amending Chapter 171 of the Town Wappinger Code entitled Parks and Recreation by repealing the existing provisions of their entirety and adding new provisions. This is what we had discussed earlier.
Just
Yeah,
move
so
to
this would be
table.
adjourned.
To table.
Second.
Table.
Okay, motion and second to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed.
Can we put it on the agenda for the next meeting? This way we don't.
Yes.
Yep.
It doesn't fall off our radar?
Yeah, no,
Joe, can
Yeah.
you just add that? Thank you.
Okay, the next resolution, 2020-155, resolution setting a public hearing on proposed benefit assessment rolls for special improvement districts and special improvement areas for fiscal year 2020, and to hear any objections there too. This is what we generally, go through this time of year. Jim, any other comments?
No, so this is part of basically adopting the budgets for the public, for the special districts. Has the assessor filed the benefit assessment rolls yet?
Not yet. He was working on it today, I know.
Yeah, he gave it to me today, so.
Okay.
Create a resolution for the next meeting.
Yep.
To accept the general. basic
Okay.
portion.
Okay.
So when he does all these special improvements for districts and areas, does he show like a year-to-year, rate change, percentage change, dollar change, so we can kind of do
No.
a compare?
No, so from the assessor's point of view, the assessor is just doing what's called the benefit assessment rolls. For virtually all of these districts that are residences, it's one benefit assessment.
Okay.
But the only problem is for commercial properties, we have a fairly complicated benefit assessment formula, which makes Christian work really hard, more than any of the other municipalities in Dutchess County. So, and that takes them some time. But with respect to most of these districts, their benefit assessments don't change.
Okay.
It's the commercial water and sewer districts that change. And again, it doesn't change a whole lot because part of the assessed value of the property works into the benefit assessment. That's the reason why.
Thank you, Jim. And I have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay, a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2020-156. This is a resolution setting the public hearing on proposed budgets, O&M charges, water and sewer rates, and rents for special improvement districts and special improvement areas for fiscal year 2021, and to hear any objections there. Two similar comments, right, Jim?
So, yeah, this is, again, part of the process, and really, this would be where the year-to-year changes come in more than with respect to the benefit assessment rolls, because these are the individual district, the individual rates and charges for the districts. And again, that's one of the things you would vote on in the budget process.
Okay.
Move.
Do I have
I'll
a
make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Next resolution is Resolution 2020-157. This is a resolution on accepting undertaking secured by cash deposit for restoration in connection with Route 376 Holdings, Inc. This is part of what we were discussing earlier. Barbara, do you have any other comments you'd like to make on that?
Other than, I think, getting that building down would be a vast improvement along 376, while they get through the DOT and the health department. That project has final approval from the
Has the asbestos been removed from the building yet to get all the permits and secure that?
So once this is accepted, if it's accepted tonight, we're waiting for multiple building permits. One to remove the building, when that comes in, they'll have to bring in an asbestos abatement certificate and something from Central Hudson before we let them remove it. And then there'll be a grading permit, there'll be a foundation permit, and there'll be a driveway permit for my machine.
Do we know if we have a timeline of when all this stuff is going to happen? Because again, I'm looking to get this thing done as quickly as possible, but safely as possible.
Can't start before October 1st, which is this week because of cutting down the trees, but I'm expecting those permits to come in this week.
And when is the fence going to go up, or is it up already?
There's no fence.
It's not up yet.
Imagine it would happen after they took the building down.
Okay. Yeah, because that's a safety issue over
Yeah,
there.
they promised to do it.
Okay.
And I'll follow them.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We get the $25,000, because Carter said we got that $25,000.
Yes, Jim, so
We don't have it in hand, but we will get it, so.
there'll be no
You
building
physically-
So we would,
permits issued until it comes in.
so we can amend the resolution. So we could amend it so that,
Contingent?
Contingent upon getting that
contingent
money.
upon receipt of a bank check in that amount.
Yeah, that, Joe?
So as amended, do we have a motion?
So I'll approve. I'll make a motion to
Second.
approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2020-158. This is the approval of the correspondence log.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is you have any special considerations, new business, before we go into executive
I
session?
actually do, if I can go first. So, got a couple residents in the audience tonight. One of the things we had talked about, and Tim Moot and I met with them on Friday, was the pond at Regency. It's about 30 residents there. And their issue was, the filling in the pond. I know there's more work to be done. I know they're in the audience, and they probably want to say a word or two here, but what I'd like to do is take this into executive session later on, consult with our town attorney to see if there's any kind of legal issues or anything else that we might have. But again, they're looking to have a meeting with us, either a special Saturday session or potentially coming to a town board meeting. And what I'd like to do is address some of their concerns as soon as possible. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that, but if we can do it on the Saturday, it would be great, a couple hours, or if we think we can, rectify this through other means without having that particular session, I'm fine with that, as long as the residents are included in anything that we're looking to do tonight.
Your proposal is to go in executive session. so
Yeah, my
we'll have that
proposal is
next
to
so we
discuss it
can-
more in executive, but what
I guess my question is, Mr. Rand, is that appropriate for executive session?
It would be for legal advice.
Okay.
So,
I think relative to legal, I would have some questions relative to legal DEC issues that I think need to be looked
Yeah,
at
I
too.
well, I guess at this point, I don't, did we even submit an application yet?
An application has been submitted first to the Army Corps for
Okay.
jurisdictional determination.
Right, so that's what I wanted to get into those details in executive session because some of the parameters and provisions that need to be explored may fall under those, the guidance of the Army Corps and the DEC with that.
Also, we have some of our own MS4 restrictions, which
Okay.
are, strict as well.
Yeah, so we should just make sure we get, legal opinion on that, but I know that DEC has not approved anything because it got anything back, so.
I guess, we can discuss with Mr. Rand the legal issues, but I doubt very much that he'll be able to issue a legal opinion, tonight, but we can
No,
discuss
I
some
mean,
issues.
but I can give you the framework and
Yes, then we
some of the
look at it.
background.
Okay.
Before we move on, I don't know if either one of the two ladies in the back would like to potentially speak at all, or you good with what we said tonight?
I just appreciate that you addressed it. I really do hope that you consider having a special session on a Saturday, because we did have half of the residents come on Friday night. And we appreciate that, again, that you both came and you heard our complaints. We don't want our ponds being filled in. It wasn't a problem for 25 years that I'm living there, 30 years that my neighbors live in there, and other people have lived there all their lives. And they never had a problem with the pond, and now all of a sudden, the pond's a problem because soccer balls are going in there, kids are falling in. I've never heard of such a thing, in all the time I'm living there. And I just really hope that you give us the chance on a Saturday to come and hear each one of us for our complaints and stuff. And hopefully we can come to some kind of resolution, but we really want to keep that pond.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Okay,
That's all I
any
have.
other items, new business, Bill?
Yeah, just a couple of things from the first ward. There was some correspondence, Jim, relative to the incoming tenant of the former Poughkeepsie Nissan used cars property. I think there was an inquiry about water or sewer, or sewer or water, or one of
I
those.
believe it was sewer.
Yes, it was,
I-
Yeah, if we could just get our eyes on what that situation is. I know the line has got to be right there, right? Isn't the district line for either water or sewer right adjacent to that property? Well, I don't need to know right this second, but.
No, I think, well, sewer is,
It's the old Grossman's property, Poughkeepsie Nissan, used car, not the new car.
Not the new dealership, right?
Anyway, my understanding is there's an applicant that is
yeah,
gonna
no,
be
and
coming, that's looking for
so
water and
at,
sewer, or
you
sewer
know,
and
at
water.
various times, that's one of the areas where I'm not quite sure where it ends.
Yeah, so that's the sewer district? All right, so do you have a water district map?
It goes, yeah, but that, I don't know if you can tie
Yeah, so
into the,
so
it
it's-
goes into the,
So
doesn't
it's
it
not in
run
the water
across the
district.
Strang property there, the old Strang property?
The water goes south, right?
Yes.
It comes under performance, right? By
Well,
performance?
I believe it's already, is it in the water district?
It's not in the water.
It's
It's
not
like
in the
one,
water.
it's like one parcel out of the water district.
Yeah,
And my
that's
understanding
the
is
correct
they want to extend it, they want to see if we will either entertain a tenancy or an extension of the district one parcel up.
Right.
And I believe they are going to pay for, they're proposing to pay for the expense to extend that.
I think it's similar to the SAS properties, you know, we
Yeah.
can consider it.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, I'm trying to walk that water back up north.
No, well, that's the whole plan, that's the original
Right.
plan.
One parcel at a time,
No,
Aaron.
that's what the design is to do that.
So if we could
Well,
just.
I mean, rather than one parcel in the, I mean, and that's kind of one of the other issues is, you know, to do it one parcel at a time becomes.
Well, then change the district lines, you know what I'm saying? Whatever's easier. If we can take a look at it.
No, but to the point is, from an administrative, each time we do an application to extend the district, there's a certain cost
Right.
associated with it. And to the extent that, you know, you can get 4 or 5 property owners who are interested in extending the district to
So I
beyond
would
it.
put that burden on the
Well,
applicant,
think about this.
Right,
Think of-
and-
right?
right.
That's what we should go back to their lawyer and,
So think about this, though. You have Poughkeepsie Nissan,
yeah.
okay, the used car dealership, which is gonna become this new business that's interested, okay? The next parcel up is Poughkeepsie Nissan, the new car dealership, which I don't believe they're interested, okay? Continue north, you get to 66 Middle Bush Road now, which is Health Quest is in a lot of that building. They may be interested. Dunkin' Donuts on the west side of Route 9.
He wants it. He
wants it.
Definitely
wants it.
Definitely wants
There's
So-
no question.
What,
Actually, several of them, you know,
and once you
we
get
had
up,
the meeting.
when you get north of Dunkin'
And I know
Donuts, now you're.
I know Bob Gray had done a plan.
Yeah, no, we
Right.
had a meeting on that,
Yeah.
and we had the list of all the interested
So-
parties.
So if we can get that on the radar and perhaps if we can authorize Jim to reach out and find out what, you know, or the supervisor,
Yeah.
what their,
Jim and I can work on it, we
I
have,
mean, I know we've looked at the water issue in there in the past, and I mean, sewer,
well, there's a number of parties that are
Phase
interested in sewer.
3, I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
that parcel was included in Phase 3B originally when it was proposed, as was Fleetwood, I believe. So, you know, so there's some There's some information out there, I'll take a look at that.
Well, Councilman, we'll dust
I
that
know we have
off,
the old
you know, look at
3B
So-
stuff.
So in an effort to fortify the Route 9
Yeah.
corridor, if you will, this might be a good opportunity to take that direction. Other issue here, Fowler House Road, not South Fowler House, Fowler House Road. I had a resident reach out to me relative to the signage on that road. For some reason, there are a lot of cars coming straight across from Adams going into their neighborhood. And they're driving all the way down to Peggy Lane and ending up at the dead end. And they don't understand why that's happening. So they said, can we perhaps put some signage up that says no outlet? It's a
That would be,
highway, right.
that would be the proper sign.
But I'm wondering why,
under the
why
MUTCD.
people, why there's so much traffic going into that neighborhood.
People drive with GPS.
Yeah, maybe there's a GPS issue, I don't know what's going on, but, for some reason that's happening. Obviously, the speed limit they brought up as well, so I'm gonna take a ride.
Was there there isn't a no outlet sign
No,
there already?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So, I'll take a look at that and talk to Mike Sheehan and see if
I
we
mean,
can just,
you know, the problem is you'd have to talk to the state. You'd have to coordinate that with the state.
well, I'm talking
Because
about,
you wanna get that, you wanna get the no
Right on the
outlet.
end, yeah,
in-
on the
You,
end.
you really wanna have the no outlet in the state
Yeah.
right away.
their concern also was Tractor Supply, people leaving Tractor Supply and then making a right. Not that they would, but, you know, that's something that they're, obviously, you know, that neighborhood is hypersensitive about at this point, rightfully so. What's that?
Nobody sees the dead end sign there?
That's at the end, isn't it, or? Oh, is it?
Right down the corner.
Show, wait, back it up, where are you looking from?
Right at the corner of Route 9, the guardrail for Route 9.
Maybe that sign's not there right now. No, I know it's right there, but maybe for some reason, I'll go take a ride.
Would make it more visible.
Well, I mean, it doesn't meet the reflectivity requirements, I can tell you that right now.
All right, maybe a new one.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'll check it out.
Jim, if it's deficient for some reason and we were just to replace it, do we need the county or state approval?
No, that looks
In that
like that looks, well,
That's
I
a
mean,
town sign.
Yeah,
boss.
it's a town sign, right?
looking
So
at
I'd
that
say we
sign,
go-
there's probably 3 things wrong with that sign under the MUTCD.
Well, Jim, we're dealing with 1960 standards here on this side,
So,
okay, so. All
Because,
right.
I mean, because the requirement is you can only put one sign per post.
Well,
So,
there's a
with the
few on
excep-
there.
Right, I mean, there's, so,
Probably
you know,
dead
the
end.
children at play sign
not
shouldn't be on that
visible.
sign. And I don't know I don't know, what's on the bottom?
It's the town of Wappinger.
Yeah.
It sasays, welcome to the town of Wappinger.
The winter parking should also be
We don't know
on
how
a
that one
separate-
ended up there.
They should be on those signs should be on separate posts.
Anyway, we'll
Yeah.
freshen up the signs.
Yeah.
This resident just randomly reached out yesterday and said, for whatever reason, there's a lot of vehicles going down that road, so we'll check it out. I did get the email, Supervisor, regarding the Sergeant Palmetier proposed parking area, which we had a successful meeting with Anthony, the owner of Old Hopewell Commons, the other day. Thank you to Barbara for being there, and Dick for setting it up, Barbara for setting it up. Basically, this was a brainstorm post 9/11, this recent ceremony. Hey, I wonder if they would let us put some gravel and put a parking lot in here temporarily until they either lease or sell the parcel, and he said no problem. So, Tim, I believe you put that plan together?
Our landscape architect, I kind of conveyed Dick's comments in that first strike.
Yeah.
He,
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, I think we'll have further discussion on it, and then maybe get some buy-in from Anthony, and that would be nice if we can do that. If we can't, we can't, but I mean, that's just a bonus if we can do that. And I appreciate you guys all putting some work into that, because as you can tell, and I called it on 9/11 a transitional period, right? There really isn't any parking over there at this moment, because the road, moved, and we're hoping that eventually they'll do something on that parcel that'll have paved parking. But right now, we need something for the time being. Last thing I have is, I want to thank Barbara Birdie and Supervisor Thurston, also Howie Prager and Sue Deo. We started a dialogue regarding the open burning code. Our code was written obviously before you could go to Home Depot and buy chimney, or before you can buy a flaming table for your back porch. And there's a number of gaps that we've identified. Most recently, we had starting to get cold out at night, so people are sitting around the campfire cooking s'mores in the backyard. People are calling 911 on them. So we're, you know, responding like last night to
And-
somebody's house who's cooking dinner out on a cooking fire
And also one resident, you know, is very concerned about people burning trash in
well, you
the can
can't,
and.
obviously you can't burn that, but, yeah, that shouldn't be done, but.
But I wanted to mention it because we're paying attention and working on it.
No burning trash and leaves is
Right.
a lot of smoke, and for people who are asthmatic.
You can't create any
And allergies
pollution.
this year are bad.
So, but there are a number of permissible situations that you can have a small
Correct.
fire for cooking purposes in the backyard, as long as you meet certain standards, which I think we need to build into that code. The town of Poughkeepsie speaks to some certain barriers and things like that. Town of East Fishkill has some things in there. Nobody's code is perfect, right? But I think we try to strive for something close to it, and if we can work on that over the next, month or so and put something together, perhaps the town
Sure.
board can entertain it.
Would it be okay to put on the website at least the DEC standards, the 4x4 by 3 height? That would take out the barrels. that
Yeah,
are on the
and-
complaint,
And some sort of,
and just some sort of an
Yeah.
announcement to only burn untreated wood.
Will DEC enforce their standards?
my guess is, no.
I don't think for routine, if somebody has a bonfire and there's environmental jurisdiction issues, I could see them doing that, but I mean, I've
I
been in
mean,
the fire.
the open burning provisions are actually DEC provisions and can be, the times of the year and things, and, typically they can be enforced by DEC police, whether they do or not.
I would say 99% of the time, the local fire department is putting these fires out or having the homeowner put them out. I have had a couple situations in the last 28 years where somebody was burning petroleum products and things like that. That's when you call the DEC in to investigate. But I mean, I'm not interested in punishing people for something that is not necessarily a problem. Like if you're in your backyard and you have a cooking fire, like these people did last night, and they're cooking food and they walked inside for a minute and the neighbor called 911 for an unattended controlled burn, I mean, people need to understand that there are certain permissible fires allowed, and there are some that aren't. Right, so perhaps we can put something up that educates folks. I don't know, that DEC standard that you had is pretty broad, though. I think we might want to pair that.
I would just bring it down to the size of the campfire, so that people realize they can't have a 6-foot.
Yeah, I think what DEC was 4x4 or something.
High,
Yeah.
fire pit.
All right, why don't we talk
Yeah,
offline and
we
we
could do
can
that.
put something together.
Bill, do you know if there's any provisions in the New York State Fire Code regarding
I don't know offhand.
outside?
New York State Town Law 130 gives the town
Right,
board
I
the
know.
ability to create the statute and the code, but
The one problem is that, and in certain areas, and again, the Uniform Code typically deals with things inside a building, so the town is restricted with respect to certain areas there. I know there's some provisions, but yeah, no, we've had issues in the past regarding our code.
Okay, well,
'cause it's not-
we'll look at that and then have further discussion. Yeah, we'll get something done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
that's all I have.
Okay, anybody else have any comment? Okay, I have a motion to move into executive session
make a
for
motion.
HR and legal discussion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none. Motion passed. Let's break.